through the tragedy that is the city of Boise so early in the morning. Usually when I come into the vaunted glass outside of the broadcast center, I don't even know the name of this building anymore. Maybe we could call it something. The George C. Armstrong Custer building. Is there anything wrong with that? You know, if I had had sons, one of them would have been William Tecumseh Miller, and the other one would have been George Armstrong Miller. And it would have been Georgie, and it would have been Willie. Willie and Georgie. Maybe we should have just make up names for my sons that will never be. But welcome to the George Armstrong Custer building here in downtown Boise. So I was on my way into the Custer building. And, you know, Custer was a great guy until he wasn't. He was a bully until he came across somebody that, you know, punched him in the face, and that was the end of that. My point being is, once again, I was driving into downtown Boise, and it's been a while because I usually take Chinden in, and then the connector and everything else, and blah, 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 blah. And it just hit me on just, again, a challenge it is to get into downtown Boise. And you can have the free KIDO Talk Radio app, and you can listen to us on the stream, and you can listen to Dave's wonderful traffic reports and enjoy the great weekend that we had this weekend, the beautiful weather. And it still hits you that there are people up this early that are working. Now, when I drive in from Star, there's a guy called Steve's Auto. And usually, don't tell anybody, it's around 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes a little later, sometimes a little earlier. And I see Steve, and you can tell Steve's because Steve actually has parakeets in the summer outside, and he has dogs and everything else. And Steve's been a fixture in Star, Idaho for quite some time. And I go, wow, that guy is starting the day early. And then, as I'm going through the challenges that is the maze, thank you, Madam McLean, you go through the parking lot or near the parking deck of St. Luke's. And as I'm going through the parking deck of St. Luke's, I'm seeing people pulling in. Now, there are people, whether it's St. Luke's, St. Al's, West Valley, Treasure Valley, all the hospital systems, wherever they may be. As I'm sitting there, and you know, they're working the night shift, and you know, thank you to all the medical professionals that take care of us. Thank you. And then I'm thinking about people that have early morning surgeries, and maybe they're on the way right now for early morning surgeries. And I want to say to them that everything is going to be okay. And it's so important, and we all know this, and we all hope that we're the ones saying this to you, as opposed to everything else, you know, as opposed to actually being the person that is in there right now. But you get up every morning, and you're going in, and you're scared. And this happens all the time. So I want to tell the patients, courage, perseverance. You're in great hands. The Lord is looking out for you. And I want to say to the people that, again, whether you're our buddy, and I haven't met him, Steve from Steve's Auto Care, or our friends at Christian Brothers that do a great job everywhere, thank you. Thank you for getting up every day. And I don't know how many people actually have a lunch pail anymore. Bo, please Google the lunch pail. You go, well, I heard my dad talk about it once. Yes, Sweet William still has his from 73, his Gilligan's Island lunch bucket that he brings in all the time. And like I said, it's an old thing that old people used to do because people would just bring their lunches to work. And, you know, those are the old days. But again, I just want to thank people who get up every day. And maybe you're working on the job right now and you're going, man, I hope this guy has something better than this. But just a simple thank you to the dignity and the humanity that goes on daily, that doesn't really go noticed, but it should. it should go noticed and it should go recognized. So thank you. We're talking a little bit about the football season starting. It's game week for the Boise State Broncos. That's great and it's wonderful. And all of our friends in sports will be all about it, and that's great. That's a great wonderland. And wouldn't it be nice if we could live in that wonderland of sports?
Go enjoy your beer and ride your ATV and watch sports. We'll run the country.
But the country needs to be run. So now, all of a sudden, we've got the big news that Robert Kennedy endorsed Donald Trump. And everybody goes, well, Kennedy was a pile anyway. It didn't really matter. And then you think about it at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, that we take a look at now all of a sudden the Harris bump. And there was a big exchange that went on over the weekend, and thankfully I was awake while I was watching the shows. And it was won by snarky, snarly, Jonathan, you're never going to be a headliner, Carl. Jonathan, you're never going to be the man. You're going to be George Stephanopoulos' always his caddy, or Martha Raddatz's caddy. I'm talking about liberal ABC News. ABC News sometimes is very good, but they're liberals. And it's tough because you want a news source that is just going to give you the news. But ABC News, they're liberal. And you have liberal Jonathan Karl going toe-to-toe with Senator Cotton over the weekend. And they're talking about Kamala Harris's plans. And they were talking about that Kamala Harris wants to get rid of private health insurance. Kamala Harris wants to get rid of everything else. And then snarky, snidely, Jonathan Karl goes, well, no, she doesn't. And then my boy, Senator Cotton, who could have been a great VP, could be a great president, said to him, well, how do you know, Jonathan? How do you know? Because Kamala hasn't said anything to anybody. Kamala hasn't given us her thoughts. We do have what she said back in the day. And back in the day was she wants to get rid of fracking, guns, and private health insurance.
Just to follow up on that, and correct me if I'm wrong, to reiterate, you support the Medicare for All bill, I think initially co-sponsored by Senator Bernie Sanders. You're also a co-sponsor on it. I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance. So for people out there who like their insurance, they don't get to keep it?
Well, listen, the idea is that everyone gets access to medical care. And you don't have to go through the process of going through an insurance company, having them give you approval, going through Obama, all of the delay that may require. Who of us has not had that situation where you got to wait for approval and the doctor says, well, I don't know if your insurance company is going to cover this. Let's eliminate all of that.
Let's eliminate everything. By the way, and we're thankful that more people have access to insurance. When Obamacare came alive, and again, I was here with you.
Thanks, Obama.
No, was I? No, I was, I guess I was. Obama was elected in 08. I got fired in 09. Or I got fired at the end of 08. I was here in 09. So we were here during all of Obama, which is wild.
Thanks, Obama.
But remember, the healthcare system was a lot better because the government says they're going to pay for things, and then all of a sudden they don't pay for things. And that's why people don't accept Medicare and Medicaid and everything else. It's crazy. So you heard from Kamala there, who's yapping about the idea that she's going to get rid of health insurance. So on this week, liberal ABC News goes toe-to-toe with Senator Cotton. And Senator Cotton says...
And President Trump is going to draw a sharp contrast with Kamala Harris, who has supported things like decriminalizing illegal immigration or giving taxpayer-funded health insurance to illegal aliens or taking away health insurance on the job for 170 million Americans, banning gas cars, confiscating firearms.
What do you mean taking away health insurance? What are you talking about?
She said when she ran for president that she wants to eliminate private health insurance on the job, 170 million Americans.
Remember, you just heard that. Now, again, whether it's liberal Kristen Welker, whether it's liberal Jonathan Karl, they start correcting people. And Kristen Welker was really off the rails this week with J.D. Vance. And, again, it's like an arm of Pravda. Kamala Harris has not stated her views. She has not spoken to an interviewee. She has not done anything else. You thought the Democrats were off the rails for Obama, Kamala, whatever. They love her, but you just heard in 2019 during her failed run for the presidency that she said that she's going to solve the Medicare crisis. By the way, the healthcare crisis, what has she ever done? What has she ever done, dear friend? Has she done anything? And let's not forget also over the weekend, we'll keep it here with Clay and Buck, Sean and Lars Larson, Israel attacking Hamas in Lebanon and Hezbollah. It's tough to keep them the same. Well, Kevin, one's in Lebanon and one's in God. That's enough, Sweet William. By the way, Sweet William, very talkative this morning. And you can join us at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. This is not a podcast until it is. But again, think about this. Israel sending 100 of its fighters to attack Hezbollah. Then Hezbollah attacking. And oh, by the way, in the new book by the Fox foreign journalist, foreign supporter, he's basically saying that Israel was on its way to attack Hezbollah, and after a phone call with Biden, they turned it back. So, again, here we have the media lying. They are liars.
Americans, John.
Yeah, I mean that is not her position now. She knows.
How do you know that's not her position? How do you know this?
Hey, John, how do you know it's not her position? Did she tell you? Hey, John, when did she say this? Hey, John, why are you caddying now for Kamala? Caddies for Kamala.
It's not her position.
I mean, she says she no longer supports Medicare for all.
She has not said that. Maybe anonymous aides on a Friday night have said that, but the last thing that she said.
But this was not a radical convention. I mean, she as you heard me go through with Bernie Sanders, she is not taking the positions of the far left of her party. She's clearly making an effort to move to the middle.
I did hear what you said to Senator Sanders, and I thought it was clear that he's very disappointed that she's taking these efforts not to change her positions, but to hide her positions, John. The American people are totally justified to conclude that Kamala Harris is a dangerous San Francisco liberal based on what she campaigned on the last time she ran for president and what this administration has done for the last 4 years. Again, you would have thought watching the Democratic Convention last week that the Democrats are not in office, that they're not in power, that they're campaigning against an incumbent Republican, when in reality, she's been part of the failures of the Biden-Harris administration for...
Oh, and it gets worse for Jonathan Karl. Let's go back to this one more time for those of you that are waking up very early.
Just to follow up on that, and correct me if I'm wrong, to reiterate, you support the Medicare for All bill, I think initially co-sponsored by Senator Bernie Sanders. You're also a co-sponsor on it. I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance. So for people out there who like their insurance, they don't get to keep it?
Well, listen, the idea is that everyone gets access to medical care. And you don't have to go through the process of going through an insurance company, having them give you approval, going through the paperwork, all...
Nobody likes insurance companies, except people that work for insurance companies.
All of the delay that may require. Who of us has not had that situation where you got to wait for approval and the doctor says, well, I don't know if your insurance company is going to cover this? Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
So there we have it, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Your thoughts on Kamala Harris saying, boom, 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 we are rolling. We are doing all these crazy things. By the way, apparently we're going to try and find out, Idaho is trending right now. I don't know why it's trending in Washington. Apparently a lady was arrested in front of her 10-year-old daughter for criticizing the mayor of Surprise, Arizona. Maybe Liberal Steve will tell us about that, but I'm trying to find out why Idaho is trending. I don't really see this. Washington and Montana got beef, and Idaho is like there. Wow, wow, wow. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Who knows what's happening? We'll find out next. But again, back to what you said and what you heard from Kamala there. She is definitely all about getting rid of private health insurance. And when we take a look at private health insurance, it keeps going up. And you ever wonder, and I know Dave Petzo said this going, Kevin Miller, the companies have to recoup what they've lost during the pandemic. Well, at our expense, car insurance going up, house insurance going up. What is the deal here where we're looking at this and saying to ourselves, you know, whatever happened to the middle-class American dream, and that's why elections matter. Now, look, you can vote for a liberal.
Joe Biden.
And the liberal is going to lie to you.
Idaho cast 9 votes for Bernie Sanders and 16 for our next president, Joe Biden.
And you can like the fried chicken.
Oh, this is the best fried chicken, and I helped.
And people can call you a big dummy.
You're a big dummy there. I'm not kidding you. You're a big dummy.
But you should vote. You should vote, regardless of whether or not you like caviar or not, like the liberals do.
So they can play in their freaking garden, smoke their pot, drink their fancy wine, and eat their caviar like the liberals do.
All right, we're waiting for you next. Kevin Miller, 580-5436, 580-KIDO, Idaho's talk station, KIDO Talk Radio.
Progressives in her own party, what do they think? There is nobody better to ask than our next guest, Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders, welcome to This Week. Before we get to the convention and all that, I want to ask you about the news overnight out of Israel. Do these attacks from Hezbollah underscore that Israel is still very much under threat?
Well, I think clearly we have a very volatile situation in the Middle East. We have had that for a long time now. The good news is it appears that both Hezbollah and Israel are trying to de-escalate.
They're back in Hezbollah and Hamas and everybody else. Come on, man. Come on, Bernie. Give us the sauce. Speaking of the sauce, Saucy Pauly joins us this morning with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Saucy.
Good morning, comrade.
The Commandant will give you the floor, little buddy.
How was your weekend, sir?
My weekend? It was.
Yeah, you and your wife.
It was filled with plotting the show and my return here in the George C. Armstrong Custer building.
George C. Armstrong?
Yeah, you know, George Armstrong Custer. By the way, let me just say this.
That's my dad's middle name, yeah.
Let me just say this. Custer's theory should be, it was a good idea until it wasn't.
Yeah. Did you ever see Little Big Man, the movie?
I did.
One of my favorite parts of the movie is where Dustin Hoffman is playing a scout by that time in the movie. And he tells the guy that played Bert on that show Soap, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, that was Custer, right.
Right. And he tells him, you go down there. You go. Because there wasn't any Indians around in sight. They were all up on the bluff, on the other side of the bluff. And he couldn't see them. And he knew what was waiting for him. And that was one of my favorite parts of the movie. Like, you're going to get your comeuppance, buddy. Here it comes.
Well, you know, and by the way, I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but my parents took me to that movie. And I don't know if seeing that movie as a little kid, forever, you know, like Spider-Man got bitten by a radioactive spider that gave him his superpowers. I don't know if watching Little Big Man gave me my powers, but I will tell you, the sarcasm in that movie, and then the marathon runner with Dustin Hoffman, where the guy pulls out all his teeth and stuff.
Marathon Man.
Yeah, that was another great movie. Yeah.
You don't take a kid to that one. Is it safe?
No, I remember seeing that one too as a little kid.
Is it safe? Yeah.
What can we do for you, Paulie?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment on RFK. When I heard the announcement that he was becoming an ally of Donald Trump, the first thing I really thought of was, we got a Trojan horse that's entered the compound, sir. We've got and I thought he was basically a plant from the Dems,
from the libs,
and they never really accepted him for being who he was and what he was, even though he was a Kennedy, which is supposed to be venerated and looked upon as royalty by the Dems. And I never really understood that, but the more I heard him talk, it was hard to understand him when he did talk, but when I did hear him talk, he made a lot of sense in some things, some not so much. But all in all, I think he might pull in some votes that Trump's going to need, because the Dems are going to pull out all stops to steal this. And they're not going to get it. They're not going to get it the old-fashioned way, where they earn it. They're gonna get it by stealing it. And I wish it wasn't that way, Ken, but that's what it's gotten down to. If you can't win it legitimately, you're going to steal it, and you're going to get it that way. And it makes me sad to know that the most important thing that you can have in this country is a right to vote, and your vote counts. And yet it doesn't, because they subvert the whole process to make sure that they win. And it's just, it can be very disheartening. But on the other hand, look at it this way. Trump's going to give it his all. And I think with the help of RFK, whose father I actually witnessed watching on black and white television in 1968 with my mother sitting on the couch waiting for my dad to come home from the hospital. He was a doctor. He checked on his patients before he called it a day. It was about 7 o'clock at night, and I watched the whole thing come down as a little 7-year-old kid, and that was too much for me. And it was really too much for my mother. She was a staunch Democrat. My father was a staunch Republican. And she started crying, and she couldn't stop. And so I started crying, and I couldn't stop. And it was something that I'd never witnessed before, and that was a live death. And there the guy was. It was a black and white TV, so you couldn't see the red blood, but you could see that there was a stain of some dark color. And they got Sirhan. They took him to trial. They convicted him of first-degree homicide in the state of California, which carried the death penalty at that time. And some live judge with a black robe on, impersonating a real judge, decided to overturn the sentence and gave him a life sentence. And he also gave that other guy, Charlie Manson, got him off scot-free for all his murders.
Yeah, they called it helter-skelter, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they all got off scot-free because of the change in the law of the death penalty. They said it was unconstitutional. So there you have that bit of history. And, I still remember that to this day. I can still remember when I see that picture of him lying there on the ground.
Yeah.
It was just too much for me.
Paulie, I got to run, but thank you for sharing that.
You have a great day for the history lesson. Thanks, Kev.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Appreciate that. Phone number is 580-KIDO. Let's get to the work statement on time. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the G&G Insulation Studio, traffic on the freeway looking good. East and westbound, no problems to get in the way. Don't forget Canada Road there at 2026 and northward. You have that construction that continues. Get paid to bank when you open a new checking account at Horizon Credit Union. Put some extra cash in your pocket. Visit hzcu.org/getpaid to find out how. That's your traffic now. I'm Dave Burnett on KIDO Talk Radio.
Appreciate that, Dave Burnett. Coming up next, the reinvention of Kamala. Are you buying it? Kevin Miller. Don't forget our friends at Beacon Plumbing. They say stop freaking. Call Beacon today. Beacon Plumbing for all your plumbing needs. Be proactive. Call our friends at Beacon Plumbing. They're standing by to serve you. Kevin Miller on Idaho's talk station, KIDO Talk Radio. 436-580-KIDO. The week of Kamala, she has reinvented herself. Isn't that amazing? It's great to be her. You talk about the spin cycle, and that's exactly what it is. She has pretty much been allowed to reinvent herself. The party is great. What do you think the liberals were going to say, that they didn't really say anything and they tried? I mean, the Democratic Convention, it's like Pepsi trying to be Coke.
Does have to explain the changes in her positions.
What's incredible is the party is so united that they have given her a pass, effectively, to reinvent herself whole cloth from her 2019 ill-fated bid for the presidency. Look, the convenient part about Kamala Harris's candidacy, and for that matter, Donald Trump's candidacy, neither of them are tethered to any deep philosophical.
Yeah, this is not a policy.
No. So look, she knows she has to run to the political center, and she is doing that, and she's running for how she ran in 2019. And the party just wants to beat Trump, so of course they're fine with that. They're not going to say a peep about it, but that's clearly what she's doing. Look, obviously Democrats won the summer, right? They had a near-death experience at the start of the summer. We're going to Labor Day now. Democrats are now on a chance to win the election, which they were not.
Yeah, Trump won the spring.
They were not Democrats 2 months ago. But there's 3 tests, really, I think, left for her in the near future. First TV interview, I think we're going to see this week. Yeah. The first debate on September 10th. And then also, how does she handle external events? Whether it's domestic or abroad, can she sort of project the commander-in-chief, profile when there is some kind of a serious event in the world? What does that look like?
Like a war? Patriot Ray, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, sir.
KIDO radio in the morning is the best thing that happens.
Thank you, brother.
Love to wake up to your show, my friend. We look at Kamala Harris and what she says she's going to do on first day in office. Well, she's had so many first days and hasn't done squat. She's been in charge of the border. She was one of the ones that signed on to to get us. She wants to have health care for everybody. And that means that we'll have no good health care for everybody. Because like any other communist country, which is the road we're heading down, if we elect this woman, I'm not going to elect her, but if the deadpan liberals who sit back and only listen to the narrative, oh, she's black, oh, she's a woman, oh, we need her as president. She has no credentials that says she would do anything but what she's doing right now, which is absolutely nothing. She supports the ones that are trying to destroy our country. I mean, Obama gives a bunch of money to Israel. I mean, not Israel, but to other countries, gives it back to them. And I'm sorry, I'm a little excited this morning because of the things that I see that's happening to this wonderful nation of ours. Our country is great. And the reason people who choose to come here legally, the reason they come here is they want the opportunities afforded that they don't have in the country they're in. And I try to let my granddaughter know, who's a flaming liberal, sits back and she says it's because we have to have a woman president. No, we don't. We have to have a president who loves this country. And I'm sorry, the left, and I'm sorry, but there's some on the right who don't love this country. They just want what they're getting out of it. And if they can get rich because of what they're doing, because lobbyists are handing them money hand over fist to pass certain laws, then, we're not a country of laws any longer. We're a country run by mob rule. And mob rule is not what this is about. We are a republic, and if people would remember that, if they'd listen to the Pledge of Allegiance, Robert Kennedy said he wants to come on, he wants to make us healthy again. Well, I'll tell you, the best thing that John Kennedy ever did was when he instituted, you need to have educational classes about how to be healthy. So you have physical education, you get strong, you get better food. The food that they're feeding in the schools now is junk. They're not really healthy for our kids in most respects from what I see. And I look at what we're doing to other countries. We're giving money galore to other countries. We're giving money to illegals who cross the border. We're giving them housing. But what are we doing for the people who have been born and raised here or even came here legally? Those who have spent the hours and the money to get here legally, it's a slap in the face to what they did. They sit back and these guys come across and they get thousands of dollars to come across legally. And, be sure to show up for this court date, which has been proven to say they don't do it. Why would you? You're getting all this freebie stuff. You don't want to be told you may have to leave. And here we are. We got a president, and President Trump, who has already shown what he did in his time in office. Now we're preparing for another epidemic again, we're told. Be careful. We got this monkeypox coming across. Oh, and the everything else is coming back. It's cold season. We're going to get sick again. We've got to get shots. No, we don't. We need to get some smarts.
Dude, I heard you're getting a poke.
Never.
I heard they're coming for
you.
Haven't
done it?
Heard they're coming for you, buddy.
They may come for me.
Yeah.
They may come for me, but they ain't getting me to take the poke. And I'll tell you right now, the hokey pokey is not what it was meant to be. And as we go forward in this life, look, we overcame a lot of the illnesses that we had back in the day, polio and all these other things that took place. Now we're starting to see a rise in them again. Why is that, Kevin? We got people from other countries that we don't know what their history has been. So God bless, Kevin. Stay fired up. Thank you for the few minutes that I've had here. I just love the station. I love that we get to hear you in the morning and that you bring us information that other networks just don't want to put out there. Now, we need this. We need people to get educated. I questioned my granddaughter. I says, the problem with things today is you're not taught history. Look up what's happened to other countries that were communist countries. They said they were going to help their people, and they turned to communism, and what they do? People are starving. People don't get it. We are right now in the throes, and we're witnessing what a communist country does through the Democratic Party, and eliminating the way that you elect your candidate. She's never had any idea of what to do. She's not going to do good in a debate because she can't. She has to have a teleprompter. She has to be told what to do. That's just like Biden. So stay fired up. Thanks so much for your show and for you, Kevin Miller, KIDO Radio 580 and 107.5. God bless you.
God bless you. Appreciate you. Our friend Patriot Ray, Pete from Mountain Home. Every time I think of Pete, I think of going to Mountain Home, the all-American city. How are you, brother?
Doing good. Thank you, Kevin. Kind of hard to follow up on Patriot Ray. He nailed pretty much all of it.
Yeah.
However, there is one interesting little tidbit that we haven't heard much in the news. The senatorial election in Montana.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm fascinated by that because Senator Tester has been on this program. His nephew, Dave Tester, is a great friend of ours.
Well, apparently, Senator Tester, the Democrat, did I mention he's a Democrat running for office in Montana?
I got to tell you, though, and I don't mean to overtalk, just let me get in here for a second. Senator Tester is beloved by the people of Montana, and there's a lot of liberals there. Again, not to say, what do I know about Montana? My wife's family, so my family, they're all Montanans, and they all love the liberal Tester. Donald Trump tried to get him back in 2018, and Montana, Pete, unlike Idaho, they spent a lot of big money on Senate races. You're talking probably $50 to $100 million being spent on a state with more cows than people. Back to you, sir.
Okay. Apparently, he came out, I think a couple weeks ago and said he did not want to nationalize the election in Montana. He just wanted to run as himself.
Sure.
It would indicate that he really doesn't want Kamala Harris to come out to Montana to stump for him. In fact, he probably doesn't want anybody from the National Party to come out and stump for him.
How about Pelosi?
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I think it's kind of interesting that, I'm a Democrat and I'm running for office here in Montana, but let's not mention that I'm a Democrat.
Well, I mean, that's the deal. It's like the Republicans here, man. They, or the libs, they always go conservative values and everything else and all these sorts of things. They never say that I'm a liberal. Look, man, if you want to be a lib, just say you're a lib, man, and, run wild and free and run around Chicago. I mean, it's kind of goofy, the social media posts from Mayor McClain going, I'm taking over the Democrat. No, I don't want to say that. That's her distinctive voice, so I can't do her voice correctly.
Joe Biden.
So there you have the mayor running around like, she's an influencer. Nobody cares if you had, some type of food in Chicago. Tell us about the traffic in Boise.
Which they've managed to screw up completely.
Not like Mountain Home where you run wild and free, but your Wendy's is pretty overpriced, or is it Burger King? Maybe both.
Well, I'm sorry. If you're looking for something to do,
yeah,
the weekend after Labor Day.
Yo.
I don't know if you've ever been out here for our Air Force Appreciation Day parade.
No.
I believe one of the biggest parades in Idaho.
When is it?
The weekend after Labor Day, the Saturday, I think, after Labor Day.
Why?
And it's interesting that the Idaho Statesman has never covered that parade. They can do the sheep thing up in Sun Valley.
I was talking to somebody the other day about the Statesman, and they live in our building, so sometimes I'll go upstairs, and they live in our old area that used to be when we had a lot of salespeople. So when we had this building, when I first got here, we had both floors. Now we have like one floor. And we don't even really need that. But you go up there and like the hallway's kind of darkened. So you have the attorneys, you have the health doctor, and then you have the statesman. And the statesman is like double doors, no customer service. And you're thinking to yourself, well, I thought you were like the community newspaper. And quite frankly, as someone who pays money, I mean, I employ the people at the statesman because I subscribe. I would like access to the statesman people. Would you not too? I mean, if you were a subscriber?
Well,
I mean, I'm a customer.
When I first escaped California and moved to Idaho back in 2004, I subscribed to the Statesman.
Yeah.
And it was delivered at my house every day of the week. And now, of course, if you want to subscribe, it's 3 days a week? And you only get it in the mail?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, there's no home delivery anymore. And you look at, and the size of that paper has, I don't know, you can't even line a birdcage with it anymore.
Well, it's just all national stuff. And there are some really, like I said, good writers, whether you agree with them or not. And they employ Dr. Custra, so I mean, I guess he needs a gig, so whatever.
Yeah, it's
it's like NPR, except at least the Statesmen they're not supported by taxpayer dollars.
Well, not as far as we know.
Right.
I mean, maybe Mayor McLean slips him a few under the table here and there.
I doubt that.
That.
Hold on. Allegedly,
yeah. But yeah, anyway, I just thought I'd bring up that bit about Senator Tester in Montana not wanting to nationalize his election. Translated, that means I don't want to talk about Kamala Harris.
Pete, thank you for the call, brother.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right. Bye-bye. More coming up next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. You're home for Sean Hannity. What up, Sean?
KIDO Talk Radio. Turn up your radio. Here's the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
The media will not play Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in their own words. That's why we're deputizing and asking all of you to help us bypass this corrupt, abusively biased media in this country. And that means to go to onhannity.com, get them in their own words, post it on social media, share it with your friends, neighbors, coworkers. Same with Tim Walz. Because otherwise there's not going to be widespread knowledge of how radical, extreme, and dangerous these policies are. And they get away with it. They're the single biggest contributors to the Harris-Walz campaign out there. It is technically an in-kind donation, but whatever.
Check out the Sean Hannity radio show later today, right here.
Hey, do you have big plans for Labor Day weekend? Well, let Blinds.com handle the heavy lifting. Now, Blinds.com's Labor Day mega sale is almost here, but you can save right now on their best-selling window treatments during their spectacular Labor Day early access sale. Now, Blinds.com is the better way to shop for custom window treatments 100% online, and that means you're saying yes to upfront pricing. Now, Blinds.com has award-winning design experts. They'll offer free virtual consultations on your schedule. They can send you free samples right to your door, fast and free. Do the measuring and installation yourself, or frankly, let Blinds.com handle it all. They install unlimited window treatments for one low cost. Now, don't miss Blinds.com's Labor Day early access sale. It's happening right now. Save up to 45% for a limited time, up to 45% off at Blinds.com. Their Labor Day early access sale going on right now. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Sean. Don't forget, after Sean, our friend Lars Larson, who will join us coming up today at 8 o'clock our time. That's right. Don't forget as well, before we get back to the politics and the schmolitics and everything else, we are so excited to once again be a part of the Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic. Now, there are a lot of people that are excited about it. I know Mrs. Miller and the little Alleys, they're excited about it. They always go on Sunday. They always go, they say, Kevin, are you going? Well, they don't call me Kevin. They call me something else. And I go, probably not. And I go, because I'm going to go to a place called church. And I'm going to go, thank you, Lord, for blessing me. Thank you, Lord, for blessing me. And they'll go to the Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic. But I believe it's always, a spiritual time there. Usually there's a big church there. So hopefully that'll happen on Sunday. Media Day will be on, Wednesday. Do want to thank our friends at Cap Ed Credit Union, CBS 2. By the way, myself and young Matt Walling, otherwise known as Mateo on the radio, will be with us Thursday. He'll be dressed up in some goofy costume. Hopefully my orange KIDO shirt will be there. KIDO Orange will make its debut on CBS 2 Thursday morning. Friday, it's the Night Glow. Looking forward to everybody, especially from our friends at Cliff's Guns that always stop by. Appreciate the big Cliffs for that. And everybody that is a fan of the First and Second Amendments and really every amendment. Well, a couple in the Constitution. But Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic, if you're new to the Treasure Valley, it is free, fun, and fantastic. Brought to you again by our friends at Cap Ed Credit Union and at CBS 2. I want to thank CBS 2 for airing me screaming and yelling on their program. Do appreciate that. But, if you're wondering what the balloons are doing all up, and you're going to hear Dave Burnett Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday going, watch out for the balloons! And by the way, don't get distracted on your way into work for the balloons. So, it's all about the balloons. Really looking forward to that. Coming up here on KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Do appreciate Patriot Ray calling in, Pete calling in, Paulie calling in. And are we going to buy the Harris Act? And they're just gushing about how great she is and how wonderful she is. But really, what has she said? If you compare her comments to what she said, 4 or 5 years ago, it is simply a role reversal. A role reversal. And then you have the media attacking Donald Trump. Well, of course they're going to attack Donald Trump again and again and again.
What do you think about the fact that Kamala doesn't talk to the press? In a way, I feel like it's more insulting than what Trump does. And Trump says you're the enemy of the people, which is pretty bad. But she's kind of saying I don't need you. I'm not talking to you. You don't matter. You're not relevant anymore. To me, that's even worse than I hate you. It's like I don't think about you.
I don't know if it's worse than denigrating the press on a daily basis, which is what Donald Trump did. I mean, I covered him in the White House every day as a correspondent. And, oftentimes to kind of, shake you if you were asking him a question, he would try to get into a personal argument with you or just deny or lie about, what you were asking about. And so I don't know if I would compare the two. I do think she should talk to the press. I think anyone who wants to have access to the nuclear codes should be willing to sit down and take questions. And we want to.
Bill Maher's right. The liberal is right. The liberal is right. And the liberal basically said, hey, man, it doesn't matter. She don't need you. You're irrelevant. It reminds me, and again, we're going to go deep cut. One of Sweet Williams' favorite songs from John Bon Jovi off of the first Bon Jovi album. Wasn't that the Fahrenheit one? It's called She Don't Know Me. Now, you have to be a really John Bon Jovi geek to get that song. By the way, Google it. They actually, on YouTube, got rid of where the lady pulls the gun on the guy, but it's called She Don't Know Me. She doesn't care. She don't know me. We're all irrelevant because the machine is working once again. We'll talk about it next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you for joining us on the right side. Anywhere you get a podcast. And check out the first hour. You'll hear Paulie, Patriot Ray, Pete from Mountain Home, and you with me. Kevin Miller in the morning, only on KIDO Talk Radio. 436-580-KIDO. Our friend Todd Christensen from Cap Ed Credit Union will be joining us coming up next hour. Appreciate Big Todd joining us. I like that nickname, Big Todd, if you will. Anyway, let's find out what's happening. Well, before we get to Ukraine and everything else, our friend Jonathan Savage joining us and already giving us a time limit, which we appreciate. We will get you out. We will appreciate that. We won't hold you to a draw. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. This contest has a 7-minute time limit.
My man. So I wake up. I'm going to church. I get out of church. I see on Twitter you're already smacking me because you're at All In, the preeminent pro wrestling event, at least in the month of August, perhaps in the entire year. And we like to humanize our people here. And So what was it like? What was it like to be a fanboy, and were you pleased with it?
Oh, what a spectacular evening I had in London last night at Wembley Stadium for AEW's All In show. It was just a delight to be there. Hours and hours of amazing wrestling with happy endings. Oh, the scene at the end. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I'm going to have to. People need to turn their radio down for 30 seconds to see Bryan Danielson in the ring with his family as the ticker tape goes off with the fireworks over the stadium. He holds up the world title. Bryan Danielson, world champion now in Ring of Honor, WWE and AEW, on the same night that Will Ospreay restored British pride and won back the international title from MJF. No longer can it be called the American title. It's ours now.
There you have it. By the way, Jonathan Savage, a rabid pro wrestling fan, talking about All Elite Wrestling in London, a big event, over 50,000 people at Wembley Stadium. My girl Tony Storm got hosed. What was it like, though, for people that are non-wrestling fans? What's the appeal?
It's a cross between sports and live theatre. If you can imagine sports, but where happy endings are absolutely destined to happen one day, I think that's probably what the appeal is, as well as the athleticism, the pageantry, the performances, the raw emotion, and then everyone afterwards shakes hands and is friends behind the scenes. That's quite nice. Unless the CM Punk is involved, then it gets a little bit iffy.
Hey, man, you can take shots at my boy, but Phil's doing pretty well.
Phil is doing pretty well. Yeah, I've got nothing against CM Punk. I've cheered him on before. I'm sure I will again, but that man could start an argument in an empty house.
I'm with you, but was it nice? I mean, you cover such serious issues all the time. Was it nice to just be a guy? And by the way, and I say this with the utmost respect, you probably could have gotten credentialed and went to the scrum afterwards, bro.
I probably could, but then, I wouldn't have had it was very late, to be honest, and I was with my 12-year-old cousin, so I'm sure he would have liked to have gone to the scrum, but I needed to get him back to his parents' house by midnight. So, maybe next time. Yeah,
I get that, but like I said, I thought of you. I appreciated the tweet. What was I guess the Danielson winning the title? Were you surprised about that? I mean, his career, in parentheses, career was on the line.
Yeah, I was 90% certain it was going to happen. I feel like the cards are all laid out for him to have a series of incredible matches coming up. Darby Allin was a great opponent for him. Zack Sabre Jr. is going to be a great opponent for him in Japan, or at AEW Dynasty pay-per-view later this year. So I just feel like Bryan Danielson, it was the right time for him to win the title. It's not the right time for him to say goodbye to professional wrestling. Wow, indeed. Our great friend Jonathan Savage. I'm trying to think of anything else. The Young Bucks retaining. Were you surprised by that? I don't know. That match just seemed like it was on the card to get those guys on the card. It would have been better. It was 3 tag teams in a match. It would have been better. It was just 2-on-2. So I don't know. I didn't have high hopes for that. It was fun. The other great thing was a bunch of surprises. Ricochet, who's just left WWE, turning up. Sting made a surprise appearance. That was incredible. I've not seen him in the flesh before. It was just a night of sort of non-stop highs. Well, anything else you would like to share with us? We're going to get you out early, just in case. But anything else you would like to share? I love it. I love the human side of Jonathan Savage. So. Yeah, I probably should do my job as well, shouldn't I? If you insist, Ukraine. Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about Ukraine very quickly. Last night, Russia, with an absolutely massive barrage on Ukraine, over 200 drones, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles at 15 regions right across Ukraine, north, south, east, west, and central. They were targeting electricity supplies, they were targeting water supplies, and they did have a significant impact with outages in major cities, including the capital, Kyiv. At the same time, Russia is trying to fight back in the Kursk region, where Ukraine has had this 480 square mile claim of Russian territory that's really annoyed the Russians, to put it mildly. So things are happening in Ukraine just now. It's a difficult time for the Ukrainians, but they are still trying to take the fight to the Russians despite this enormous onslaught.
And with a minute to spare, Mr. Savage, you're the best ever.
Hey, do my best for you. Take care.
Thank you. Jonathan Savage with the latest. By the way, war is breaking out all over the world. And does anybody care? We care certainly about our troops that have left, that have been deployed by the Idaho Army Guard, the aviation unit. God bless them. God bless their families, their employers. The extra challenge of being a Guard member is you got to do your day job. So for employers, the challenge is keeping that slot open, not replacing that worker, or making sure when that worker gets back, they have their job. So big ups to everyone on deployment. Thank you. Thank you for your commitment. And we cannot understand what you and your family are going through, but we sure do thank you for your service. And as Jonathan Savage said, and again, let me apologize to all the 99.9% of the people that are not pro wrestling fans. I totally understand it. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, the bottom line here, the bright lights, big city of this all is that, why not let Mr. Savage talk a little bit about that before we get back to the war? So Hezbollah is launching missiles against Israel. Israel is launching planes and taking out Hezbollah. Then we have, what is it, G? What is it? Oh, that's right. What Jonathan Savage said, the Russians are mad because they miss the old Soviet Union. Oh, what's the Soviet Union, Kevin Miller? I'm a millennial. Bo, don't get mad, Bo. Bo's going to go, I don't know what the Soviet Union is. Is that like macaroni and cheese? No. Maybe when you were in school, they did a brief part about the Soviet Union, but the old people, old man Kevin Miller, we grew up hating the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact. They were like the Bizarro Seinfeld, like the Bizarro Jerry. We had NATO. They had the Warsaw Pact. They had the Soviet Union of Soviet States. We had the United States of America. Now they're mad that the band went with us. We stole their girls. So Putin is mad. Putin mad. Nobody's glad. And so the Russians are bombing the Ukraines. And it ain't good to be a Ukraine right now. So that's your international report brought to you by, who cares on KIDO Talk Radio? Because we've become so used to the bloody wars, which is unfortunate. Also unfortunate, we talked a little bit about the attitude of liberal ABC News journalist Jonathan Karl. Jonathan Karl is not a journalist. He's an advocate for Kamala. Think about this. We talked about this last hour. What is her stance on health insurance? By the way, I loved it when, and hopefully it's in this clip, Tom Cotton goes, I know what's in that bill, Jonathan, because I'm a senator. I voted for it. With all due respect, and it would be one thing if the leftists in the media actually did this with the Democrats could not handle it. The Democrats could not handle if the media clapped back at them a lot. It's like a lot of people here locally. They like to take shots at me and you and the people, but they don't like it when we question their integrity because they don't have any. Let's break it down for you on the tape here with Kevin Miller.
President Trump is going to draw a sharp contrast with Kamala Harris, who has supported things like decriminalizing illegal immigration or giving taxpayer-funded health insurance to illegal aliens or taking away health insurance on the job for 170 million Americans, banning gas cars, confiscating firearms.
What do you mean taking away health insurance? What are you talking about?
She said when she ran for president that she wants to eliminate private health insurance on the job for 170 million Americans, John.
Yeah, I mean that is not her position now.
How do you know that's not her position? How do you know that's not her position?
I mean, she says she no longer supports Medicare for all.
She has not said that. Maybe anonymous aides on a Friday night have said that, but the last thing that she said.
But this was not a radical convention. I mean, she. As you heard me go through with Bernie Sanders, she is not taking the positions of the far left of her party. She's clearly making an effort to move to the middle.
I did hear what you said to Senator Sanders, and I thought it was clear that he's very disappointed that she's taking these efforts not to change her positions, but to hide her positions, John. The American people are totally justified to conclude that Kamala Harris is a dangerous San Francisco liberal based on what she campaigned on the last time she ran for president and what this administration has done for the last 4 years. Again, you would have thought watching the Democratic Convention last week that the Democrats are not in office, that they're not in power, that they're campaigning against an incumbent Republican, when in reality, she's been part of the failures of the Biden-Harris administration for 4 years. And when she campaigned for president in her own right, she did in fact promise things like decriminalizing illegal immigration and taking away health insurance.
But that's his position she's clearly changed on, and she said she has changed. Yes, she has.
No, she has not. John, she has not said that.
Dude. So Lisa Booth, who started off, I think, at the Washington Times, and again, I say this as a proudly married man, she's very cosmetically appealing.
Yeah, he loves them. Lisa...
Unlike that Charlie guy from the Washington Times. But when Lisa Booth speaks, at least on TV, and she's a very intelligent woman, very intelligent lady, great to see the West, Jason Chaffetz, former representative from Utah, who did journey here to Idaho. Do love Jason Chaffetz getting his shot in, but let's take a listen.
You know, at least she's telling the truth. Of course she would rather hide in the basement like Joe did. That's how he got elected.
Yeah, she wants to hide behind the teleprompter. I mean, can you imagine being a Kamala Harris surrogate? I have no idea what she believes. I don't know when she's going to talk to any of you.
She's joyful.
Yeah, but she's joyful. So, you know, you have that, which is also a lie because she's not. I mean, we all saw that clip earlier with Senator Cotton and Jonathan Karl at ABC. He's supposed to be a journalist, and he basically played the role of a surrogate. So we're not going to get any answers. The media.
I really like how she says surrogate. Surrogate.
It doesn't do their job. They're terrible. They're hacks.
Yeah. Lauren, I don't know, male or female, either one, the interviewer on NBC, they're going to pitch underhand, I think. Don't you think?
Oh, man. I can't wait for the interview. They probably don't.
Yeah, NBC was actually begging the vice president on the air, please pick us. We would love for you to and let you interview us, Kamala. You're the best. So what do you think? You've heard Senator Cotton at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You've heard Senator Cotton break this down. You've heard what he had to say. And Senator Cotton really just spelling it out like it is. Just saying, look, the bottom line here is I voted on that bill, Jonathan. I am a senator. Jonathan, were you on the Senate floor? Jonathan, were you the guy? Jonathan, I'm the senator. You're not. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You know, here's another thing. And there are a lot of people that are launching their own independent media companies. And I really am in favor of that. I admire what Clay Travis did with Outkick. To me, and it's funny, Mrs. Miller said to me over the weekend, she said, do you do anything but talk about radio? And I said, well, what do you mean? She goes, you know, I'm sitting here after a long week of work and, you know, all I want to do is rest and do some other things. And all you've done since you've been home is talk about radio. And I go, dude, I love radio. I know I shouldn't call Mrs. Miller dude. It doesn't work out for me when I say that. However, there is a love affair with the spoken word. There's a love affair with you in a heterosexually appropriate way, mind you, that we still communicate this way. We still can interact at 580-5436. But I admire people like Clay Travis that created Outkick and that, you know, Fox bought it and it's doing good. And by the way, you know, we've got Riley Gaines, Outkick's own Riley Gaines, coming to town Wednesday, and we were great to have her on. It was wonderful, and we look forward to being there. However, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, whether we agree on things or not, that media companies continue to are necessary. Megyn Kelly, who is now apparently her YouTube channel gets more hits than NBC and CBS combined, has shown the formula. And the formula is that you get enough seed money that you can fund these things, whether it's Bill O'Reilly or Megyn Kelly or Tucker Carlson, and you fund them and you roll. And you don't have to worry about being canceled. And look at our boy, Mr. Bongino. I mean, every other word is rumble, 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 or Clay and Buck with their Insider Club, because people are worried about this. And coming up next, I'm going to give you an example of just how liberal NBC News is along with ABC News. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Smoother. Bo knows how to turn my mic on. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Don't forget, coming up tonight at 7, it is Glenn Beck, who's got another new book out, which is very exciting. We love it when Glenn Beck puts out a book. Maybe Glenn will send us a few books to give away to you. Speaking of which, how liberal is the media? Let's take a listen. This is after Kristen Welker and a friend of mine, Greg Marcelli, one of the great talk radio gurus of all time. Greg Marcelli wrote, I really miss Chuck Todd on Meet the Press. I really miss Chuck Todd on Meet the Press. I miss how Meet the Press used to be. You know? What's that? Isn't there a country song? I would miss how things used to be. So Kristen Welker, after getting this exclusive interview with J.D. Vance, and remember, they never do it with the libs. They never do it with the Democrats. They never, ever, ever correct the libs. The libs can say the sky is black when it's blue, and boom, but here we have the cheap heat. Let's listen.
Note on Senator Vance's claim about family separation. The numbers show the Trump administration separated more than 5,500 families, most of them under that zero tolerance policy. The Department of Homeland Security says currently up to 1,000 children are separated from their families. The Trump administration had a policy to systematically separate families. The Biden administration only does so under extraordinary circumstances, like if the parent has a criminal record. And we should also note that when Senator Vance talked about flying migrants into the U.S., he was referencing a policy that allows migrants from a select group of countries to fly into the U.S. legally only if they have a sponsor here in the United States. That program is currently on pause. And
no, we're not going to come up. Coming up, our Golden Girl. By the way, if they redid the Golden Girls, wouldn't Senator Elizabeth Warren be perfect? Wouldn't she be perfect to play the B. Arthur role? Could you imagine that, the Golden Girls? Do we have that? Bo, have you put that together yet? Kevin, man, I'm just happy that my parents are coming home so I can, get rid of the dogs. I love the dogs, but still. The Golden Girls starring, oh, dude, this is great. Nancy Pelosi, Elizabeth Warren. Do we throw in Hillary? And is the neighbor the vice president, Kamala? Something to think about. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, but 580-KIDO. There you have the crazy liberals. They have to get in the last word. Never mind that Robert Kennedy Jr., a Kennedy, has endorsed a Republican. Well, he's not really a Kennedy anymore. Not really a Kennedy anymore. He, in fact, they're going to disown him. But there was something that Robert Kennedy Jr. said, that is nonpartisan. And do we have that? Let's take a listen.
Are you willing to take on a position like this in the Trump administration as health czar?
Well, one way or the other, I'm going to be fighting to get this stuff out of our foods. I mean, we're poised. We have a generation of kids that are swimming around in a toxic soup right now. And we need to, we're betraying them. We're supposed to be taking care of our kids. And we're letting these industries corrupt our agencies and mass poison them. And, nobody in the world has a chronic disease epidemic of the kind that we have in this country.
Yeah, it's true. I think it's a sleeper issue of this election. So I really appreciate you coming on, explaining this, breaking it down.
Yeah, and he's very tall, and Rachel Campos Duffy is very short. But Robert Kennedy Jr., he talked about the censorship that the mainstream media allowed. In other words, they said we're not going to put you on. And what does Tea Party Bob say? The whole thing is silence by consent. Silence by consent. And you ever wonder why we're getting sicker and sicker and sicker? Robert Kennedy Jr. talked a little bit about that. We'll get into that as well. We got a long way to go, a short time to get there. I'm eastbound, just come on, Bandit Run. And you're wondering, hey, that's great, Kevin Miller. Thank you for, again, another old man movie reference. Kevin Miller, are you auditioning for the sports station? Kevin Miller, are you auditioning for the oldies channel? No. I just auditioned for you, true believer. Get you to work safely and on time. KIDO Talk Radio. Traffic. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the G&G Insulation Studio, traffic now working several accidents in Canyon County. Madison and Birch, you have an accident also at Blaine and Simplot. Watch for a crash there. And Skyway and Smead in Canyon County. If you have leaks, clogs, or other plumbing issues, Perfect Plumbing, Heating, and Air can handle your plumbing needs. Big or small, serving Treasure Valley since 1984. They're trusted for exceptional results. Call or visit callperfectnow.com. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Appreciate that. Dangerous Dave Burnett. AJ in Caldwell, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Hey, Kevin. Good morning. Hey, first of all, I want to say I apologize. You kind of hung up on me a little bit the last time I was on, and I was a little bit bombastic, so I'll try to keep the rhetoric down a little bit.
No, I'm with you on that. It's just that, I will say this. Look, and I don't want to say we love people to talk, but after a little while, we only have, and again, we have like guidelines. So when it gets over a certain time, it's nothing against you or your content, brother, but I have to adhere to a clock. So a little inside, behind the dial, if you will. Please, AJ, your time starts now. Thank you.
Okay. So RFK Jr., interesting because he was working with two doctors that were in the medical field for some time, and one of them was a surgeon. I believe the other one was more of a scientific endocrinologist or something, but they basically did research on the background of foods in, the United States.
I was just, something, you're going to steal my thunder, but we will play that clip coming up after we're done with you, but please go ahead. You have the floor.
Well, so, basically Big Tobacco, knowing that they had their rear ends in a ringer, started investing money in food. And these same people that were taking products that would go into cigarettes that would basically addict people are the same people that went out and used products that are similar and put them in foods. And these things, and of course there was obviously some, scientific facts involved in this, but basically we have a food addiction because certain foods are made to be addictive. And those foods are unhealthy for us. So I think it's amazing that this guy is willing to have his own family, just completely against him for doing this. And I think Donald Trump reaching out to him it just proves that the guy is willing to reach across the aisle to do something that's good for America. And everyone, and then, Kamala Harris says that he's trying to just feed all of his, billionaire, friends with all of these benefits. That's just ridiculous. The guy has all the money that he needs. Being a president has only caused him nothing but grief in his family. But yet he
I'm sorry, AJ. They almost killed him.
Yeah. So you're right. And so, how could anyone be more committed for doing something that's good for America? And he gives up his salary, donates it to veterans. I just don't even understand how people really are ignorant to the facts. And I'm using that word ignorant, but I'm using it politely at this point. But that is just the truth. The economy under Trump, they're saying that it was bad. It wasn't. And in fact, they're saying that Biden may have overreported 1 million jobs.
No, not may have. He did. He did overreport it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, how can we do this? How can people honestly, just in their right mind, vote Democrat at this point? I do not understand it. And it's really difficult for me just to, fathom.
I would agree. They're voting against their economic interest. AJ, thank you for the call. Beacon Plumbing brings you Fox News. Stop freaking. Call Beacon. Beacon Plumbing today. BeaconPlumbing.net. Kevin Miller on Idaho's Talk Station, and your home for Fox News, KIDO Talk Radio. We miss our friend Cap Ed Todd Christensen.
Hey, good morning.
Joins us
good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Cap Ed Credit Union. You see, Todd's raring to go, as he always is. This is his favorite week of the year, the Cap Ed Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here. The temperatures are cooling down overnight, and sunrise is around 7:30. A beautiful sun on the windshield coming into the office this morning to have a good chat with you this morning.
Well, for people that aren't familiar with it, it's tough to really understand, but tell us a little bit about this big event coming up on Wednesday.
Well, it's Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic runs from Wednesday through Sunday of this week into early next week down in Ann Morrison Park in the great city of Boise. An opportunity I think we have over 50 hot air balloons that are coming into town this week. And we kick off with Cap Ed Kids Day on Wednesday, where elementary age students and maybe a little younger have an opportunity to be introduced to the wonder of flight through a tethered ride in Ann Morrison Park.
Well, what is so magical about balloons? As you know, Todd, I'm a cynic, so and people, yeah, that's an understatement. People really enjoy it, but I mean, give us some sauce. 50? Wait a minute. You're not hyping this up. Are you saying close to 50 or 50 balloons this year? That's got to be a record.
Yeah, I think that's a record. This is our 33rd year. Cap Ed's been involved with the Balloon Classic for nearly 10 years now. Excuse me, but you asked a question about the wonder of flight and what's so special about hot air balloons. Well, in this the opportunity is get up and close. If you want to come down early, be down to the park by 7 o'clock, maybe a little bit before. You can see the hot air balloons set out and do their cold inflation, hot air inflation, stand up, and then launch. And the colors of the balloons are spectacular. The pilots that come from across the United States, and I think we actually have a couple international balloonists here this year, just come and enjoy the wonderful Treasure Valley and the great state of Idaho.
How does this event continue to grow? Because we have, especially in the West, we have some really big balloon events. Obviously, the one in Boise that Cap Ed brings us, along with CBS2 and Town Square Media. But you've got a few others. But how do we rank nationally?
I think in this regard, this one's much more intimate. You have ballooning activities down in New Mexico, but that'll have several hundred, if not thousands, of balloons. And I think that could get a little crazy. We know we have a lot of balloonists that return to the Treasure Valley each year because they love what our great state offers and the opportunity to be in the great state of Idaho and just how the community welcomes the balloonists. So is it the largest? Absolutely not. Is it the best? Certainly is.
All right, Todd. So for people that are thinking, why should I get up early to hang out with Todd and his balloons this week? And we're having a little fun. It's not just you and the balloons. There's a lot of people that do a lot of work to make this happen, sir.
Absolutely. Between Town Square Media and all your team and everything that they do, a shout out to Pete Mills, who I know is going to be extremely exhausted a week from today for all that he does and his team in putting together the Balloon Classic, as well as Lori Spencer with Lighter Than Air America and her whole team. They're the ones that truly make this all happen. Cap Ed is very blessed to be able to sponsor the event. But back to your question, why come down? Come down and enjoy gathering as a community. Earlier in your hour here, all the challenges and frustrations and not such good news happening across the world.
Wait a minute, Todd. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, we talk about good news every day.
Well, yes, good news, and this is one of them that we can talk about right now.
Yeah.
And the good news is this is a free event between ourselves and others that are sponsoring the event. This is an opportunity for families, friends to come out and gather in our community. We like to say that it's celebrating the end of summer, the starting of the school season. But it's a great thing to come out and see a community that cares about each other and celebrating each other and then seeing the wonder of flight.
Yeah, indeed. And then we've got this thing at night where seemingly, I don't really understand it, but you have people, and Todd, let's tell the truth, spend 4 or 5 hours sweating in the park And great, there's drumsticks. And look, unlike good old curmudgeon here, people enjoy this thing. They love it, and they're all about the Night Glow, and it's free.
The Night Glow is on Friday evening. Park activities start around 5 p.m. You mentioned that people do wait a while. Again, another great opportunity to come and see what our community has to offer. I think you're usually in bed before the balloons get up and glowing because you like to get up way early in the morning. But in this case, around 8:30, actually, if you're down in the park by 7:30 at evening, we have what's called Happy Dance between the Cap-Ed hot air balloon and one of Lori's balloons, typically the Coca-Cola balloon, are inflated and stood up and are there, and family and friends and little kiddos are invited to come out and dance around the balloons.
Do you dance around the balloons? Do you dance around the balloons, Todd?
You bet. You know, I've got 3 grandkids and another one on the way.
Good for you.
It's a family favorite to go out there, and our oldest grandson, shout out to him, Logan, he just turned 5, and he said, "Papa, when are the balloons?" And I said, "In next week." And he's like, "Great. Do we get to go dance and then see him light up at night?" And I said, "Absolutely." And that's the joy for families, whether it's a small family or extended family or just friends from across the valley coming together. But Night Glow, spectacular. I think we'll probably have somewhere between 15 and 20 hot air balloons choreographed to music. And as the burners burn, the envelope or the balloon glows, and it's a wonderful, spectacular spectacle.
Todd, anything else that you'd like to share? We didn't really talk about the weekend. Obviously we're going to roll on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This is an event that'll take up a lot of time, but if you can't get away from work, there's Saturday morning and Sunday morning.
Saturday and Sunday morning, there are launches, both Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning. Mentioned earlier, the Kids' Day. Those are all tethered rides. I know some parents may choose to have their kids go off and away for a bit, but this one's tethered where they go up 30, 40, 50 feet, and then come back down. Again, that's running from about 7:15, 7:30 till 8:30, 9 o'clock, or until the propane runs out. I think each year we try to give at least 4,000 kids, or if not more, rides in hot air balloon basket. But again, Wednesday, Kids' Day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning launches around 7:30. I'd encourage everybody to be in the park at least by 7, if not a little bit before. I know that folks would appreciate if we give a shout out and say, leave your 4-legged friends at home. They don't necessarily mesh with hot air balloons that well. And if you do choose to bring them down, be attentive to your dogs. But yeah, thanks for an opportunity to chat about the Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic, 33rd year here in the city of Boise and in the great state of Idaho. All
right, I'm going to put you on the spot, Todd, because, as you know, that's how I show my affection. How, and I won't say crazy, but how passionate and unique are these balloon people? Because, it takes a special individual to get up on a balloon with no engine or anything and like, woo, there go the wind patterns and fly, fly, fly away.
Well, I've met many balloonists. Some are crazy, some are awesome. Some are just downright talented at how they fly their aircraft, being able to catch those different threads of wind or rivers of wind in the sky. And I think that's one of the reasons why balloonists enjoy coming to Boise, is it's often referred to as the Boise box, that as they go up to a certain elevation, they can fly westward out over the valley, go up a little bit higher and catch the wind and brings them back east towards, Ann Morrison and Boise State area, come back down a little bit, and then fly right back into the park. And that's something that balloonists really enjoy, having those type of wind patterns, to be able to not only take off from a beautiful park, but then come back and land in that same park. And that's something that's pretty cool to see. For those that are having the opportunity to fly, if they don't come back to the park, they always have chase cars to go out and chase them and bring the balloon and the basket and their passengers back to the park.
Yeah. Of course, they like that little donkey in the river thing, too. Was I supposed to say that? Have you ever been dunked in the river, Todd?
Well, I have been with Greg Rogier, our wonderful pilot of Cap-Ed's Reed to Rise hot air balloon. And it's called a dip and dash if you come down and dip on Quinn's Pond. But I've been with him once or twice where we've done a poke and soak. and the socks have gotten wet, the shoes have gotten wet. But it's a spectacular sight to see balloons over the skyline of Boise coming out of Van Morrison Park. It's just something wonderful to celebrate.
Well, we celebrate you, Todd Christensen. You've been, you talk about people here, but I mean, you work very hard on this event, and of course, you got your day job at Cap Ed.
Yeah, I mean, it comes together with the great work. I mentioned Pete, give another shout out to him and his team for all that they work from Town Square Media. Well,
I mean, it's really not just it's not Pete. It's Mike Owens. It's Kevin Miller. It's Bo. It's Sweet William. It's a lot of people.
It's everybody.
Yeah,
it's everybody.
It's a team effort. Yeah.
For Cap Ed, we have a great team here. We'll be down in the park. We actually are partnering with Brigade Screen Printing to have custom printed wearables, and those who are Cap Ed members get a 20% discount. Those who are not Cap Ed members can sign up and receive the 20% discount on some custom screen printed items. So we encourage everybody to come down again Wednesday through this coming Sunday.
All right, Todd Christensen, I'll see you Thursday morning.
I will see you Thursday morning. We'll be down there Wednesday through Sunday.
Well, no, but I'll be there Thursday morning.
Well, you need to come down besides Thursday. You should. Are we going to get you down there Friday night? You don't have radio programs.
Oh no, we're required to be there, Todd. As you know, I'm there every night, Glow. I'll be there as they call me Mr. Sunshine because I'm so happy to sweat to the oldies while we wait for the night glow.
Hey, if looking at the weather, it's just going to be perfect. A little warm during the day, cools off in the evening. We're into fall, favorite time of the year for me. And so don't be so grumpy. That's your motto for this week, is don't be so grumpy.
You love saying that to me. You just love that. Yeah. Great friend.
You put me on the spot, I'm going to put you back on the spot.
That's why, you and I have had a great relationship for years, Todd. Again, I really appreciate you, Todd. Let's not, anybody else, but seriously, I appreciate you and all the great work Cap Ed does. And our friend Ryan at CBS 2. Look, they've been pumping this for quite some time, and great partners of ours for years.
I thank you for your acknowledgement, and I'm blessed to work with a great credit union here in the Valley, and we have been here since 1936, and a key tenet of our mission statement is to enhance our community, and this is one of those ways that we make sure that we're making a difference. And again, I come back to this statement, and you asked a question earlier, why do you want to get up early? Come out and celebrate the good things that are happening in our community. Come out and see family and friends whom you may not have seen all summer, or for that matter, for all year, and be able to see each other, have a personal conversation, reconnect, and then enjoy the wonder of flight with the hot air balloons.
All right. The one time of year where hot air is welcome in Boise.
Well, on KIDO, it's always welcome in the morning with Kevin Miller, so we appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Todd. Take care of yourself.
All right. Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Our great friend Todd Christensen talking about the Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic, brought to you by Cap Ed Credit Union, CBS 2, and Town Square Media. Whoops. It's of this day.
President Biden today marking the anniversary. He's in Rehoboth on vacation this week. Guys?
Wasn't he just on vacation last week, Griff?
In California.
That was the California vacation. This is the Delaware vacation.
Okay, what vacation is he on next week?
We'll have to look into it. Not sure about that.
So he'll be in 3 months. He'll be on permanent vacation. I think that's about right.
All right.
Thank you so much, Griff.
There we have it. The 13 folks that were killed. 3 years since the terrorist attack killed 13 U.S. service members at the Abbey Gate in Kabul. Joe Biden on vacation. Joe Biden getting ready for the permanent vacation, unfortunately. Get what you pay for. I guess that's what they call the golden parachute. Coming up next, a couple of heavy hitters. We've got Lars Larson joining us, and we also have Mary Rook joining us from the Daily Caller. She's got a new series out, and the Daily Caller has a new documentary that we'll talk about. And her vibe is about moms and conservative moms under siege. So we'll talk with her about that. Looking forward to hearing what Mary has to say. And I do want to get your comments on this one. This is from Fox News Sunday, and this should be a nonpartisan issue. And RFK Jr. brought this point up. And by the way, I do want to thank the prepper who follows me on Twitter at Kevin Miller Show, saying maybe RFK is a deep fake. Maybe he's going to jump back into the election. No, I think RFK is done. And RFK understands the threat of the media, the big censorship. And who would ever thought there would be collusion between the government and the media? And we go back to, I mean, you talk about, as we have, in the Trump years have been fascinating. They've been exhausting. They've been fascinating, but nobody really took Donald Trump seriously. But Donald Trump has become the man of our time, the man of the century. I mean, they tried to kill him. The government has been caught colluding with media companies promoting a false story. And there's no rebellion because the media continues to feed the useful idiots, otherwise known as the Democrat electors, and they continue to buy the propaganda. It's amazing. It's like watching your significant other or whatever cheating in front of you, and when they say, dear, it's not like what it looks like what it seems, you believe them. That's the fraud that is being perpetrated, and now we're talking about gas prices going down. The cost of living has risen exponentially, and the government should be held accountable for it because they're responsible. We'll talk more about it next. First, KIDO Talk Radio Traffic with our friend Dave Burnett. Let's get you to work safely and on time on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the G&G Installation Studio, working an accident eastbound on the freeway near 10 Mile. Another accident eastbound right near Meridian, maybe on the off-ramp there. Linder and West Apgar working an accident near McMillan. With the new multiplier games from the Idaho Lottery, every scratch is a chance to multiply your win from 2 times up to 20 times. More wins, more woos. That's your traffic now. I'm Dave Burnett on KIDO Talk Radio.
And appreciate you, Dave. Again, coming up, Lars Larson will join us. Can't wait to hear what he has to say. Lars reviews the DNC. Of course, you can catch Lars weekday afternoons at 4 on KIDO Talk Radio. Of course, you can catch our entire schedule on our website, or if you're so inclined, check us out on the free KIDO Talk Radio app. And on the app, we've got a story that I wrote, 6 secrets that Idahoans don't want you to know, especially outsiders. They don't want you to know about Idaho. Some good, some bad, some may say clickbait, but something to pass along. It's a little of the inside secrets of what really goes on in our beloved gem state. Don't forget, KIDO Talk Radio is your home for Fox News on the radio, brought to you by our friends at Beacon Plumbing. You know the slogan, stop freaking, call Beacon. Kevin Miller, radio app. And again, our great friend Lars Larson, who joins us at 4. He's with us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Lars, great to have you with us. And we wonder, what is the state of the republic, sir?
It's in pretty sad shape right now, but it can be corrected in a couple of months if the voters vote for the right leader. I mean, do you want to vote for Kamala Harris, given that for 3.5 years Kamala Harris lied to you about something so significant? She said Joe Biden was sharp as a tack, completely in control, made competent decisions. By the way, one of the most consequential of those decisions was, well, the end result of it was today, 3 years ago, when 13 service members were murdered by a suicide bomber at Abbey Gate in Kabul, Afghanistan. And how did they end up dead? Because of a colossal series of decisions that were mistakes, but decisions by Joe Biden. And so you say, well, what happened then? 13 service members died. We left behind, I don't care how many billions it was billions of dollars. Some people have said 80, that may be a bit high, but tens of billions of dollars of some of the best military equipment and weapons in the world that we left in the hands of the Taliban. And God knows where they are today. We will be extraordinarily fortunate if none of them are used to murder Americans. But why did Joe Biden decide it was the right time to pull out of Afghanistan? We'd had a stable 18 months before that. In other words, we had 2,500 people on the ground. They had not had a single casualty, let alone a death, but not even any casualties. In 18 months, they ran regular missions to knock down terrorist operations within Afghanistan. And what did Joe decide? Joe decided he wanted to brag that he had finally got America out of Afghanistan. Did I want us to be out of Afghanistan? Yeah. Did I think it made sense to leave a holding force of 2,500 people there to run anti-terrorism operations? Yep. Joe decided he wanted it, and he wanted it then. We've gone through the analysis, I think you and I have over the years, of why that time of year made a huge difference, because in the wintertime, it's very difficult for anybody to move around that country, including the bad guys. As it gets into spring and summer, it becomes very easy to move. So you say, why is that significant? Because if you decide to withdraw and undercut the former now government of Afghanistan, they will fall quickly to the Taliban. And the Biden administration was asked about that. Isn't this going to collapse very quickly? And they said, no. All our best experts have said it will not collapse quickly. That's not true. Their best experts were telling Joe Biden, yes, this is going to come apart fast. So that was a colossally stupid decision to lie to the public about that. But then he decided we're pulling out anyway. And he pulled most of the military out and shut down Bagram Air Base, which, by the way, cost the American taxpayers about $10 billion. It also had a prison there that was holding hundreds of bad guys, okay? Al-Qaeda bad guys and Taliban bad guys. And so what happened when they shut it down? The bad guys walked out of custody and joined forces with the other bad guys, and Kabul, the capital city, fell very quickly. So we were left with a country where we'd left the civilians in, pulled most of the military out, and they were trying to manage the exit from that country on airplanes of not just Americans and American civilians and some remaining American military, but a lot of people who had helped us in that country over 17 years. Right, wrong, or sideways, you know, I don't think much of the decision to have stayed in Afghanistan for 17 years, but no matter what you say about that decision, you should have exited the country the right way, which is bring the people with you who are American citizens, American service members, and allies on the ground that we had promised. You help us during this war in Afghanistan, and we will get you out of the country. We didn't, and many of them died. Not all of them, but many of them died. And so Joe Biden had said, we're going to get everybody out. Kamala Harris bragged until things went south. She bragged that she was the last person in the room with Joe Biden when he made that decision. The term of art meaning the boss was making a big decision, and out of all the people that the president would consult with, the last person he consulted with in the room was Kamala Harris. She owns this. And there is no good explanation for why they threw away the lives of 13 service members. Further, when the Biden administration said we've identified the bad guys who brought about the suicide bombing that killed 13 service members, we will find those people and bring them to justice. They dropped a missile on a group of people and said, there, we got the bad guys. No, actually, they got a family of 10, including children. And the Biden administration has never answered for that. So that's the anniversary today. And do you suppose that Kamala will come out for a mea culpa on that one?
Most likely not. Our great friend Lars Larson joining us here on KIDO Talk Radio. Lars, let's talk about the DNC. I thought it was Republican light, man. Where were the woke people? Where were Down with America? Where were the Palestinian protesters? Talk about bait and switch.
Well, the Palestinian protesters were all over the place, outside. They were kept out by, surprisingly enough, the Democrats like walls when they're having their own DNC convention. So you had all these protesters outside trying to cause trouble. Meanwhile, inside, what did you get? Did you get anything of substance at all out of the Democrat convention? Did you get, this is how we propose to make things better in America? No. What you got was Kamala Harris saying, on day one, I will go to work on these problems. Well, she's now day 3.5 years as the second to Joe Biden and could have been working on all of these problems. So she's acting as though she's been in this job. Joe Biden is a mentally deficient person and has been for a long time. She lied about that. So what was she doing about all these problems while she was vice president? And the answer is she wasn't doing anything at all. And what specific plans does she have to correct many of America's significant problems? And the answer is hope and joy, hope and joy, hope and joy.
Oh, kind of like hope and change. Hope and change.
Yeah, hope and change, hope and joy, whatever the slogan is. But you've got to have some substance behind it. What do you plan to do about inflation? You ask her about inflation. I've seen so many reporters try to ask her, and she'll say, yeah, bread costs more, and gasoline costs more, and groceries, and she'll tell you the problem. It's like going to the doctor when you've got the flu. He says, yeah, I bet your stomach's upset. I bet your guts are upset. I bet you're congested. I bet you're sneezy. I bet you've got a cough. You know, great, doc. You just described what I have. What do I need to do about it is the question you came to the doctor for. You can describe your symptoms. So all she's doing is describing the symptoms of America's problems without saying, and what will you do differently to change it? I don't think she has a clue.
Exactly.
Do you?
Well, I'm with you, but let's get back to anybody else during the convention, how they treated Joe Biden. I felt like it was 2008 all over again, and the Obamas basically can say whatever they want, and people just love this stuff.
Well, and isn't it funny that they took Joe Biden and they shoved him off to the graveyard hours? They gave him a speech that for the East Coast, which is where, like it or not, most of the population lives east of the Mississippi River, about a much smaller percentage out here west. And so what they do, they put him on starting at 11:30 p.m., ending at 12:20 a.m. East Coast time. So they were clearly sending the message, you are not the keynote speaker. And immediately after that, Joe Biden got on his plane, Air Force One, at our expense, and flew out to Santa Barbara, California to lick his wounds because his own party had just kicked him to the curb. And then for his swan song speech, said, you get to follow all of these other people. You're going to be on very late at night when most of the people in the East Coast have already gone to bed.
Yeah, it
now,
was troubling to see that. Yeah, Joe, but we've never seen that before in American political history. Goodbye, Joe.
No, we haven't. I mean, to have a party, and this is the thing that your audience, I hope, would understand, and many of them, I'm sure, do. All of this was a product of a series of coups. You want to go through them? 2016, two major candidates running for the Democrat nomination both had a shot. Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton. I don't think much of either one, but the party decided we're not running that communist from Vermont. So they sabotaged. They're not. He is.
No, just the way you said it, though.
You're
right. I'm laughing with you. Just the way you said that was.
Well, can you imagine the DNC saying, let's see, how's this going to work out when the Democrat Party runs a communist as its title candidate? That's not going to work out well. Let's torpedo his effort. So, but remember, when a party decides we will decide the candidate, they're not just insulting that individual. I couldn't care less if Bernie got his feelings hurt. I think he got bought off, so he's perfectly happy with the result. Although the other night at the convention, he went off on billionaires, on both sides of the aisle, and he mentioned both sides of the aisle, both Democrat and he's going off on billionaires, followed by Pritzker from Illinois, who is a billionaire. Lots of billionaires associated with the Democrat Party. But the bottom line is, here are the coups. They cheat Bernie out of a fair shot against Hillary and decide we're running Hillary. That is the party's decision. We don't care what the voters want. We're deciding the candidate. You say, well, maybe that was a one-time occurrence. Joe Biden runs for president. He had three competitors, Kevin. I want to remind you, in 2020, he had three competitors, and the other three won the first three primaries. Joe lost. And then all of a sudden in March, Joe's the candidate. He's won 1 out of 4 at that point, and the other three, within a period of a couple of weeks in the month of March, just drop out of the race. Kevin, it'd be like me running a foot race, and I have three people, and they're really competing hard against me, and then all of a sudden, as we get near to the finish line, the other three just slow down, step to the side of the racetrack and sit down. You say, what happened to my competition? The party knocked them out. They decided Joe was the candidate. And then they ran him knowing all of his deficits, maybe not knowing how bad it was going to be, but they knew he had mental deficits. They run him. He wins, if you count 2020 as a win and not a cheat. And then he's running again. And who decides that Joe is not going to be the candidate? Do the American voters decide that? No. How about the delegates of the DNC Convention? The decision was made a month before they got together in Chicago. The party. So you've had coup, and who decided that Joe would step down? Was it Joe? Was it Dr. Joe Biden that decided? No, it was the party. So, and if you say, well, both parties do it, good. Give me an example where the Republican Party decided the candidate. Because I'll tell you what, in 2016, if the party had had its way, they deliberately stayed away from it, they would not have picked Donald Trump. They'd have picked any one of those 17 candidates and said any one of these people, because they didn't like Trump, because Trump was going after the deep state, and the party benefits from the deep state. They wouldn't have picked, the Republican Party would have not have picked Reagan. If you don't remember, Reagan is remembered very fondly today, and God bless him, greatest president of the 20th century, but the Republican Party hated Reagan. A lot of the party hated him. Public loved him, but the party hated him. And they have the same attitude toward Trump. The party establishment hates Trump. They don't like him, and they would not have picked him. But in the Democrat Party, the party picks your candidate. So you had a coup against the American people and the will of the American people. The Democrats did not get to Democrat-registered American citizens did not pick Kamala Harris. The party apparatus did.
I would agree. And, at the time, you and I talked about this, never before has the state of South Carolina mattered so much politically. And not enough people bring that up, which what you brought up about how all of a sudden Buttigieg, your boy, quit, Klobuchar quit, and then it was Joe because Bernie had to be stopped.
And how is that? And the Democrats running around preaching about democracy, number one, we're not a democracy. We're a federalist republic, and there's a gigantic difference. A democracy of any size, especially one this big, would fail immediately because you can't run things through direct democracy. But do we have elements of democracy in our federal republic? Yeah, we do. We get to vote. The votes are counted at the party conventions as delegates. The delegates end up choosing the candidate, in theory. On the Republican Party side, they do. On the Democrat Party side, they don't. But, Kevin, what does it say? I guess it reminds me a lot of, over the years, watching elections in Cuba with the Castros, watching elections in Russia with their various leaders. And we'd all say, well, they're having an election in Russia today, but we understand that the people of Russia do not choose the winners. And the same thing is true in communist China. If you ask anybody, so in this Chinese election, who do you think the people will choose? Anybody who pays attention to what's going on would laugh at you. See, what are you, crazy? Do you think the people of China picked the Politburo and the head of the country? Of course not. It's picked by the Communist Party. It's a dictatorship. So, and then you say, but in America, we choose our president through a process that is not direct democracy, but is representative. Do you think anybody who's an average Democrat, including some of the ones listening right now, would say, yep, that was the process. The Democrat Party provided the process through which the people chose the candidate for this year? Did the people choose Kamala Harris? When she gave that acceptance speech, she said, I accept this from the people. And even she, I think, thought it was awkward because she couldn't thank all the millions of voters who voted for her because, Kevin, it is true, she got the nomination without receiving a single vote in 2020, nor a single vote in 2024. The first presidential candidate that I know of, at least in modern history, to get the nomination of the Democrat Party who didn't have a single Democrat citizen vote.
Right. And Jonathan Karl and everybody else continues to carry the water, so much so that she might not do an interview, or she might do, softball Sally.
Well, and would you accept if somebody ran for mayor of Boise or governor of Idaho and said, I'm not talking to the press, I'm not answering questions about what I plan to do, I'm not telling you, I'm not expecting that every candidate can speak to every citizen. That is simply, unworkable. But if you say, Well, you have to communicate to the public. How do you do that? Reporters come in, at least in theory, ask the questions that citizens would have asked. Those are the kind of questions I try to ask. I think if Joe Average was talking to this candidate, what would they ask? And I ask those questions, and my audience gets to hear what the answers are. And, I know there are plenty of times people say, you should have asked him this, or you should have asked her that. Okay, I get that, but I've been asking questions for a living for almost 50 years now, and I think I'm reasonably good at it. And she is just saying, I'm not going to talk. And she doesn't hold press conferences. She hasn't done a sit-down interview in a long, long time. And when she does, she's a train wreck. We've got, in about 2 weeks, we've got a debate. I'm still questioning whether she's actually going to show up for the debate. I think Trump's going to mop the floor with her. And what are the Democrats going to do if she performs as badly, differently, but as badly as Joe did in that debate? They don't.
I don't think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see the prosecutor, or I think we're going to see her with what she did to Biden when she accused him of being a segregationist and a racist.
Yeah, the problem is that she's indicting her own party because your party chose a segregationist and you agreed to work for him. Can I tell you about speaking of
hold on, you're like in rare form today. That's such a compliment. I love that. I mean, your powers are at their peak today, Lars. I love it.
Well, I appreciate it. I have to tell you about one thing, though, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to buy a house?
Sure. Who wouldn't?
Okay. Do you need a down payment to buy a house?
Allegedly, yeah.
How would you like to have $30,000 as a gift to buy a house?
Is that from the Lars Larson Bank? Yes, sure.
No, it is not coming from the Lars Larson Bank, Kevin. You got to get your own money. But there's one key question I have to ask you to see if you qualify for this program that we've been talking about all of last week. Friday, my Friday commentary was on this, and all weekend I got emails from, have you heard about this? It's outrageous. I said, yeah. I spent 2 days on it, Thursday and Friday, and did my Friday morning commentary. Here's the key qualification. Are you an American citizen, Kevin?
Yes. Yes, I am.
You don't qualify. Sorry. Americans need not apply. And then if you ask me, who's putting up this money? I'd say American taxpayers. And who doesn't qualify? American citizens. So who does qualify? Well, aliens, foreign nationals, both legal and illegal, qualify for this $30,000 gift from the American taxpayers, but American citizens do not qualify. You are specifically excluded by the rules of a group called Hacienda Community Development Corporation, which gets its money from the state government, in this case, in the state of Oregon, although California is doing the same kind of thing under Newsom. So imagine this. We've reached the point where we say American citizens need not apply for that government program funded by American taxpayers.
And brought to you by our friends in Oregon.
Yeah, but don't. I mean, it probably won't pop in Idaho, I think. Boise and the legislature have more common sense than that. Last week we talked to the state lawmaker who fought the idea at the legislature, the funding approval for it, and he said they had a program right up front that made it clear what they were going to do, and then that got too much attention, so they pulled it back and then inserted it into another bill where they kind of buried it down at the bottom. But it still got passed through. And now Hacienda Community Development Corporation, a private nonprofit NGO that gets its money from the state government, is handing out $30,000 grants to people, but you may not apply if you're an American.
Brought to you by Biden-Harris. Lars, we got to run, but what's coming up today at 4?
Oh, my goodness. We got so many things coming up because we have the aftermath of last week's convention. I'm going to question what Kamala Harris is going to say about the fact that she loved to brag about her involvement in the Afghanistan pullout that was such a colossal disaster. 13 service members killed 3 years ago today, and no answers about the family that was bombed and died from a missile, and Joe Biden had to say, "Oh, oopsie, we thought those people were the terrorists, but it turns out it was just a family with children, and we killed them." And Donald Trump went to Arlington National Cemetery today. He's already gone there to mark the 3 years since the Abbey Gate attack. Do you suppose Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will have anything at all to say about that?
Well, like you said, Joe's on vacation.
and Kamala ain't talking.
Lars, you're always...
And what does that say?
Lars, you're always talking, and we will catch you today at 4, sir. We appreciate you, brother.
Always my pleasure, Kevin. Take care.
Take care. Our great friend Lars Larson, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Boy, really great to hear what our friends have to say about Kamala Harris and Lars Larson. You go back to the vice president and everything else. When will people hold her accountable? As we talked about earlier, the idea that the media is now one big, giant, massive offensive line, and we should never forget 3 years ago today.
I want to ask you about Afghanistan, because in your call for Joe Biden to step aside, you also pointed to that as a Biden-Harris problem. In fact, you said it was a strategic and a moral failure, that withdrawal. The vice president says she was that last person in the room on that decision. Is that failure also hers?
We've got to stop assigning partisan blame on fundamental things like our national security. I said it as an American. I said it as somebody who served in combat, who had...
She was the last person in the room, dude. She's responsible. You can't have the cake without the icing. You can't have the steak without the sauce. You can't have Harris without the Biden.
Friends that served in Afghanistan, if we can't make mistakes and wrestle with that with a...
Oh, it was a mistake. Like a mistake not to go to Arlington today by both Harris and Biden. They are telling you who and what they are, friend. They are telling you who and what they are. As AJ said earlier, how dumb do you have to be to believe them? KIDO Talk Radio Traffic. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the G&G Insulation Studio, still dealing with that accident on the freeway right at the on-ramp of 10 Mile. That's going to slow you down just a bit. Try to move to the left to get around that. They've moved everything into the gore right now. New accident reported at 10th and Homedale in Canyon County. Looking to lose weight? Medical Solutions Health and Wellness Family Practice can help you do it with a free consultation. Call 208-629-2023 or 208medsolutions.com. That's your traffic now on KIDL.
It's pretty remarkable that the Democratic Party has become so radical under Kamala Harris that a member of the Kennedy family has come out to endorse a Republican.
I don't know if Bobby Kennedy Jr. at this point is that representative of the Kennedy family, but I want to get to that in a second. But first, there are reports. There's obviously a bit of a momentum change here. You see it in the polls. You see it in the money flowing in to the Harris campaign. And there was a report in Politico that Trump now knows that he has to change things up or that he could lose. You talk to him. I mean, what's your sense? Do you need a change in direction?
Well, President Trump and his campaign has known all along, and they've said all along, that this race is going to be a close race.
Actually, he said it would be a landslide, just to be clear. He said he was going to win in a landslide.
By the way, this is Jonathan Karl from liberal ABC News. And Tom Cotton is great. By the way, high today of 84, low tonight 64, high tomorrow 92. Yeah, I did. High today 84, and Wednesday 78. That's amazing.
I mean, taking away health insurance. What are you talking about?
She said when she ran for president that she wants to eliminate private health insurance on the job. 170 million Americans, John.
Yeah, I mean that is not her position now. She
How do you know that's not her position? How do you know that's not her position?
I mean, she says she no longer supports Medicare for all.
She has not said that. Okay. Maybe anonymous aides on a Friday night have said that, but the last thing that she said on
this was not a radical convention. I mean, she.
You notice when Tom Cotton hits him with facts, liberal ABC News Jonathan Karl interrupts him. Look, you're supposed to ask questions. It's not a debate, Mr. Karl. Why don't you be a lapdog you are with the liberals? You, Bernie Sanders, Kamala, and everybody at ABC News, and just soak in the fun. And again, ABC News is a great organization if you're into progressivism.
As you heard me go through with Bernie Sanders, she is not taking the positions of the far left of her party. She's clearly making an effort to move to the middle.
I did hear what you said to Senator Sanders, and I thought it was clear that he's very disappointed that she's taking these efforts not to change her positions, but to hide her positions, John.
By the way, mandatory credit this week with George Stephanopoulos, featuring Jonathan Karl on KIDO Talk Radio.
The American people are totally justified to conclude that Kamala Harris is a dangerous San Francisco liberal based on what she campaigned on the last time she ran for president and what this administration has done for the last 4 years. Again, you would have thought watching the Democratic Convention last week that the Democrats are not in office, that they're not in power, that they're campaigning against an incumbent Republican, when in reality, she's been part of the failures of the Biden-Harris administration for 4 years. And when she campaigned for president, in her own right, she did in fact promise things like decriminalizing illegal immigration and taking away health insurance.
But that's his position she's clearly changed on, and she said she has changed. Yes, she has.
No, she has not. John, she has not said that. She's not. You pointed out, Senator Sanders.
By the way, I mean, Tom Cotton is incredible. And have you ever seen a team that is so athletically superior that the officials side with the other team? As conservatives in Idaho, in Wyoming, throughout the Mountain West, it may not be as bad as the left coast, but it's close. When have you ever had a conservative be allowed to get their side of the story? You know, in Idaho, we have now abortion's going to be on the ballot. Great. That's wonderful. Let the people decide. What happens if the people decide we want to keep it the way it is? We want to save lives of people. We want to make sure that people are healthy and safe and babies are saved. What happens if we go there? If conservatives had an even playing field in terrestrial media, which means analog media, legacy media, or the social media, the digital smidgital, we would be a conservative nation. But the liberals know, just like snarky Carl here knows, that he can't go one-on-one. Senator Cotton's about ready to use his own interview against Jonathan Karl. Karl is just going to sit back and take it. And then, you know, as I watch this thing, and now I'm sharing it with you on KIDO Talk Radio, Karl is just, he pardon me for being offensive, he's smelling his own flatulence. It's not his point, and neither is it for NBC's little darling, Kristen Welker, to be the truth teller. You're there to ask questions, and it, like I said, it would be one thing if, in fact, they did this like Bill O'Reilly used to do, give everybody a hard time. But that's not the point anymore. That's not the case. And here we have Senator Cotton of Arkansas, who could be a president one day, very pro-life, spelling this out. I'm trying to find the part where he says, John, you don't know. I'm a senator. I voted on the bill.
Sanders repeatedly, things that her campaign has said, anonymous aides speaking on background to reporters has said, well, she no longer believes these things. Okay, maybe she has changed her position on things like taking away your health insurance and confiscating your gun. If she has changed her position, she owes it to the American people to come out and say in her own words when she changed and why she changed. That's one reason why she needs to address the American people and speak to these questions, because the only basis they have to conclude what she will be like as president is what she's done for 4 years in this administration and what she said in her own voice in the last campaign. Remember, these are not like college essays, John. This is what she said when she was campaigning for president as a 54-year-old woman. If she's had such a radical change of heart in the last 5 years, she owes the American people answers.
So speaking of radical changes of heart, I want to ask you about what Donald Trump had to say.
There we go. Back to Donald Trump, back to Donald Trump, back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump isn't the guy rolling. Donald Trump is not the guy that Senator Cotton is talking about. He worked with Harris, and it's crazy. By the way, we did promise you this last hour. We apologize for this from our own Fox News Sunday that you can hear right here on KIDO Talk Radio right before Real Estate Rescue Idaho, the replay, if you will. Fox News Sunday, our own Shannon Bream had a great show, really just breaking down things. And this is a nonpartisan issue that should hit home to everyone. I know it hits home to pro-life here on KIDO Talk Radio, but let's take a listen.
Okay, so there were reports a couple weeks ago citing an official from your camp and also a Democratic official saying that there had been outreach to the Harris camp as well to possibly discuss you working within the Harris administration in exchange for an endorsement of her. Is that true? And what happened with that?
I reached out to them on the same basis that I reached out to President Trump, and we actually talked to other presidential candidates, including Chase Oliver and the Libertarian Party, about figuring out ways that we could end the polarization and the hatred and the vitriol, start talking about issues.
Look, Kennedy, we're not going to stop the hatred or the vitriol. The hatred and the vitriol are what fuels modern day politics. The hatred and the vitriol are the things that fuel the political fires today. A great lesson in what fuels the fire these days. It's not about policy. It's not about breaking things down. It's not about anything else. You know what it's about? It's about winning. It's about lying. It's about everything else. And it's about 13 Americans that died 3 years ago today in a bomb in Kabul. All Marine Corps folks except for one Navy petty officer and an Army staff sergeant. That's what it's about. Look, it's like, have you ever heard of the French philosopher Sartre? I believe his name is Jean-Paul Sartre, an atheist. But there is no rationalization. You either do it or you don't. And they'd say, Sartre, it's World War II. You either fight against the Nazis or you get killed. And right here, we're seeing the great lie perpetrated by Kamala Harris. No guns, no fracking, no gas-powered vehicles, a totalitarian regime, no health care. I don't say this to scare you. I say this because pretty soon there'll be none of me left.
And I was welcome to listen to anything from the Democrats that they were going to do something about the war, about the Ukraine war, about the censorship, about the child health crisis, this epidemic of chronic disease that has now disabled about 60% of our kids. And, when my uncle was President, Shannon, only 6% of Americans had chronic disease. Today, over 60% do. And, it's hard to find a kid today that's not been damaged by it. And it's coming from our food supply, from pollution in our environment, from toxics in our environment, and mainly from corruption in our government that allows that to happen.
You've talked about, or there's been discussion.
Did you hear what he said? One more time, true believer.
Toxics in our environment, and mainly from corruption in our government that allows that to happen.
You've talked about
the corruption of our food. Big food. Big food. Nobody talks about that. 60% of our kids have chronic disease. He says it's from our food supply. Concern in Emmett with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Concern.
Good morning, Kevin. I didn't get a chance to congratulate you on your 15 years. That was awesome.
Well, I didn't think I'd make it, brother. Thank you.
Hey, well, let's hope for another 15.
Thank you,
we'll
sir.
Keep it back.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk about, the useful idiots that listen to these Democrats, they spew the same lies over and over and over again. I watched a interview with J.D. Vance with CNN, and that was really interesting. He is a super good debater. But what Trump needs to do is instead of, the Democrats continue to throw the lies out, but nobody clarifies each one of them. They spew things and then the Republicans spew things back, and it's back and forth. And during the debate, I would hope that Trump would actually ask her questions or have her break down what her answers are, because she just repeats the same lines over and over again.
Well, now they don't want to mute the mics.
Right. Yeah. They don't want to mute the mics because they want Trump to argue. And they just want to throw things back and forth. No, you did it. No, you did it, back and forth. So what they really need to do is Trump needs to be prepared
for every topic, because you know every topic she's going to bring up, and just clarify, like when she says, well, Trump didn't vote for the border issue. And it's like, well, let's break that down. Let's break that down. You know, he needs to break it down for the American people, because both Democrats and Republicans are going to be watching, and try to educate these useful idiots that continue to believe the lies that they spew over and over again. You know, watching the DNC, it was just a joke. You know, the joy, peace, and nothing with any substance, you know. Unlike the RNC, when they had people standing up saying, you know, hey, I this is what happened. I lost my family. I lost my job. You know, actual reality of what people are at. You know, they just live in this Hollywood fantasy land wherever they're at. But I hope Trump keeps his cool and asks Kamala the questions, because she don't have an answer. She just spews these things out because they tell her what to say. But when you really break it down, like the border, let's break it down. You know, did you go to the border? Did you ever go? You know, things of that nature. Make the people see, so the usefulness can be educated a little bit. But I'm waiting to see if that debate even happens, because you know they are tricky, and I don't know what they're holding back on. But you know, they got to set it up just perfectly for them, and the people just buy into it. But love your show, Kevin. I just keep praying for this country, because you know it's an important election. Because like you know, Ken said, it's a coup. Our government is being ran by a coup that doesn't want anybody else involved except the people that are in line with them. And it's pretty sad to watch it happen and watch the idiots believe it. But anyways, love your show, Kevin. I'm be listening.
We appreciate you. Thank you, Concerned. Thank you for the nice comments. Kevin Mello in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Mentoring, of course, her new newsletter with moms and faith and culture. Looking forward to that. You catch her a lot on Newsmax, so it's great that she'll join us coming up here on KIDO Talk Radio. We go to Hank, who's going to break down something. Good morning, Hank.
Okay, real quickly here, I might point out that you've pronounced Jean Paul Sark's name is Sartre. It's actually Sark. And of course, he's different from the other existentialists in that he's in his ontology or his idea of reality, God doesn't exist. But going to the main point I'm talking about is Kennedy's made the statement that 60% of the kids are affected by the processed foods. I'm kind of a skeptic. I'm not going to say that I'm going to totally deny, because I haven't really researched the subject. But it seems to me, in terms of common sense, we would have heard about it a lot more if this was the case. And it would have been sort of a
hold on.
Liberal Democrat.
Would we really have heard about it?
Well, that's
would we have really heard about it, or would the people would just call Kennedy a kook?
Well, that's part of it. I mean, I kind of share some of those opinions, Kennedy, both ways. I don't know if I would have told Kennedy total kook, but there's certain things that he's on that I can agree with, and certain things he's way off on left field. In other words, it's kind of like, Kennedy's kind of like a mixed bag to me.
I have never heard Jean-Paul Sartre's name pronounced that way. That is, well, I don't know, Hank. That's you're out there, bro.
That's the way I've heard it. But I mean, you could be right.
Well, no, I like being corrected. All right. Quickly, what's going on in state politics? What are you hearing? It's been a little quiet, but that won't last for long.
Well, the only thing that seems to be coming out is what's going to be coming of Labrador suits. You know, in terms of basically this voting, this 4-tier voting system that they're trying to force down, and whether or not the courts will uphold that, and you know, and I think that's the thing that right now has got most everybody's attention.
All right, nothing about ranked choice voting, huh? You're going to let that roll?
Ranked choice voting, so that was the word I was trying to look for. Yeah, you know, and it amazes me that nobody learned anything. You know, people that have been raised, of what a disaster it was in Idaho when they had such a system. As I pointed out in numerous calls, from 1909 to 1921, it was a disaster, and it was particularly a disaster for the Democrat Party back in the election of 1918, when the Democrat Party was hijacked by the nonpartisan league, but by that voting system. I mean, their nomination system. So that was why the Republican legislature in the next session in 1921 repealed it, and they didn't have a primary again until 1931. That was passed in the Idaho legislature, but. Look at what's happened to Alaska and how Palin was screwed out when she was actually the leading vote choice. I mean, by the system, it's really designed basically to basically in states where the Republicans are dominant, such as Alaska, to implode the Republican Party. I mean, that's the truth about the matter.
And they're coming for you.
It's a shame.
They're coming.
And it's a shame that our Secretary of State, our current Secretary of State, believes in it.
Why do you say that?
Well, he's in favor of ranked choice voting.
Well, you'll have to send me that one. I haven't seen that.
That's what I understand.
Well, what's your source?
Well, that's what I understand.
Oh,
that's
come on, Hank. Come on. Okay, so we're going to say that is not confirmed, right, Hank?
Well, that's just...
Hank, who's the source?
I think I have actually heard him say it.
Asked or listening wherever, we appreciate you. Also appreciate the work of the Daily Caller. And when she's not on Newsmax or everywhere else, she joins us now, Mary Rook. Mary, thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You know, I got to tell you, what's it like being on the Newsmax? I mean, I go, there's Mary, and there you are. How do you like that?
I always enjoy it. You know, Carl always makes it a fun show. And the topics we talk about really affect, everybody's daily life. And especially if you have a family or if you're raising kids in this crazy society. So I always enjoy kind of touching on that kind of stuff.
Well, we appreciate that. We are going to talk about faith, family, and freedom in your new newsletter. But the Daily Caller has a new documentary out. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. So the Daily Caller wanted to investigate the rising spike in squatters. So essentially what's been happening for the past several decades is that American property owners have been seeing, their rights being stripped away and instead being given to people that have illegally broken into their homes, taken advantage of squatters' rights laws in various different states, and have, taken essentially ownership without paying for anything of the home, whether it was, a renter that stopped paying their rent or someone that found an abandoned home or a home for sale on the market and just moved in themselves. They've used these local laws in order to allow, them to take ownership. And so what the Daily Caller did, our investigative team traveled from city to city speaking with homeowners who have fallen victim to squatters and sometimes opportunists who prey on landlords' kindness or, one of the women in here, her mother was 80 years old, and these two men from a local restaurant, they were busboys, moved in, and it was right before COVID. So then when COVID hit, at first she thought, oh, this is such a great thing. I have these two men in here and they're taking care of my mother. And, at the time she was too scared to go see her mom because she had young kids and she didn't want to be giving her mother COVID. And, she was in her 80s and all of that fear mongering that went around. And so she thought, thank God I have these two men that are renting out this apartment next to my mother and, they can help her. Well, they ended up, defrauding her, taking money from her credit card, stopped paying rent. When the mother died, it was impossible to get them out. She ended up having to hire a lawyer. She was trying to sell the home. I mean, she just ran into so many issues, and she's not alone. There are, thousands of property owners across the United States who are using companies outside of the police force because most of the time when the police show up, they say this is actually a civil matter. We can't do anything about it, especially if the squatter is showing them some sort of fake or forged lease agreement. I mean, it was really eye-opening for me to watch how these people were able to, connect with other squatters, and they were teaching each other how to bypass our laws and how to be able to, essentially just erase property owner rights in the United States.
And it's going on and going on. Is this a Biden thing, or is there something else responsible?
No, it's been going on long before Biden was in office. This is something, originally we had, I think I can't remember the exact name of it, but we've had a law on the books in almost all of our, almost every state in the United States, where if there was an abandoned home, say like on the fringe of the city, where it was starting to become dilapidated or it needed upkeep and the property owners weren't doing it, you could move into that, make upkeeps, turn on the lights, clean out the yard, make sure that the structure stayed sound, and do all of these things. And after 10 or 15 years of staying in the residence, if the property owner never said anything, then you had a legal claim to say that you were the owner of the home. Now, on the other hand, these people are coming in to perfectly fine homes that have not been abandoned. They're either on the market for rental properties or they're on the market for, for being sold. And they move in. For example, there's a man that was featured on the news out in L.A. near Beverly Hills, and he moved into one of those massive mansions over there. And he was throwing massive parties, keeping all the residents up till 3 a.m., selling, tickets to the party essentially so that it could pay for the party and he could make money off of it. And there was nothing they could do. They sent the police force to the home. They said, this is a civil matter. You're going to have to go to the court system. But, of course, the court system takes forever, as with the woman who had the two men living with her mother, who is now deceased, found out the hard way. It takes years to get these people out of your home through the legal system. And, you're kind of stuck trying to prove that you are the owner and that these people are legally occupying the home. And in that time, they can stay there for free. You're required to do, upkeep. She was fined a huge fine because the men turned the water off and tried to claim that she turned the hot water off. I mean, it's just one disaster after another, and it's a really scary concept, being a property owner myself, thinking, okay, well, if you get into this rental type business where you own a home and you have a renter in there, and what happens, like in 2020, where the federal government just said you don't have to pay your rent, and property owners can't have any legal recourse to force you to pay it. And so, it's a scary idea in our country that says in this day and age, there's no one's coming to save you. You're essentially on your own. And we also document a rise in companies that come and help these property owners out, either by, evictions, cleaning out the homes, boarding them up to make them impossible for people to break into while they're on the market. It was a kind of a wild thing to follow. And I would really, kind of give props to our investigative team and our documentary crew, because it's a beautiful documentary. It captures you for the entire time. It's about an hour and 15 minutes long. And it really gives you so much information, and also kind of tugs at you where, you get worried about the state of all of this, and then you kind of want to be empowered to make a difference and make a change.
More coming up with Mary Rook next from the Daily Caller. Kevin Mill in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Talking about your Newsmax appearance, and it was amazing that you, Carl, and the Cowboy were talking about Harley Davidson. And that's really one of the importance of the Daily Caller, and that's why I pay to be a part of it. And I've always loved what you guys do. That you brought up this issue concerning Harley Davidson going woke, and then you had the Cowboy jump in and proving that I don't have a life, because I remember actually what happened about Bud Light and just these woke companies that pretty much forget who really funds them, which is the consumer.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's been the strangest part of all of these major corporations going woke, is that they've almost forgotten that, we are the force behind their profits. And so when you spit in the face of all of these people that have used your products, religiously for years and would swear by them and teach their kids about them. And, I have one of my friends, my husband and I, one of our friends from college is a Harley Davidson rider. And he's a Harley Davidson rider because his dad was a Harley Davidson rider and his grandfather was a Harley Davidson rider. And so, to see these three guys kind of go through this, I can't believe the people making my bikes hate me kind of process was really eye-opening for me. So I was glad to be on, Newsmax for that segment, because it hit home for me, and and I know it hits home for a lot of people where, just regular everyday Americans just tired of seeing these woke corporations try and, best us with their might and power when in reality they get that might and power from us.
Well, and this comes back to your beat and your new newsletter, but never would we think in our world that we live in today, and it's certainly not the case, but the perception might be that a traditional family of a man, a woman, and kids is just plain weird. And it isn't, but that's the way they're programming our world to be. So you, as a wife, a mom, do you believe that your traditional American family valued lifestyle is an endangered species?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I see it just within our friend group. My husband and I was 22 when we were married. My husband was 24. Everyone looked at us like, we had three heads. What were we thinking? What were we doing? We're throwing our lives away. All of that kind of stuff. We're one of the rare millennials that just went for marriage right away. And it's been the best thing that's ever happened to us. Every positive thing that happens in our life, we've done it in service of our family. And I think that type of thought process is really rare now in my generation, even probably rarer. And when you look at Gen Z, and but it's that thought process that built our country. It was the service of your family, of making sure that your legacy stayed intact and that you're an honorable member of society. And the family had a lot to do with that. And so I think the thing that I get most frustrated with whenever I'm talking to, other moms or, other parents at our girls' school is that, they'll say things like, oh, politics, they don't really mean anything. I'm not going to follow it. I have faith that, God's going to protect us. And while that is true, and you should have faith, especially if you're a believing Catholic or Christian, but whether or not you believe in politics, politics believes in you and is very much concerned in your daily life and is very much concerned in how you live your life. And so if the politics or fashion at the time doesn't, equate to what your moral beliefs are, they're going to try and make it extremely difficult for you to just sit back and live your life. And which is, kind of the point of my newsletter, hopefully, is to wake these parents up to realize that there is so much at stake if you sit out and ignore what the culture wars and ignore the politics of our society and what's going on, because, it's never been harder to raise a family than it is now.
Yeah.
My first newsletter was talking about cell phones and, the dangers of what that brings into our kids' lives. And I think that as a parent, you couldn't do a bigger disservice to your family than to set out and ignore what's going on in our political world.
Well, and then you have people, and even in Idaho, Mary, we experience it here on KIDO Talk Radio, where nobody wants to get involved. Nobody wants to be involved with politics because, it's controversial. And you're thinking, okay, if you peace out, then it's the government, it's the accountability that you deserve.
Yes, exactly. And so, I agree with that sentiment that you get what you get if you don't throw a fit kind of thing. And however, the people in our nation deserve so much better than what we have. We come from a long line of, hardworking Americans who built a country out of a wild wilderness. And I believe that we are owed our birthright, but at the same time, we have to pay for it every generation. Sometimes that means war. Sometimes that means culture war. And so right now we are in one of the biggest culture wars of since generations, I would argue since the sexual revolution. And so it's time for our generation of Americans to step up and pay their birthright and, kind of reclaim what it means to be an American and reclaim what it means to, lead a family through turmoil. And that's kind of where we are right now. And it's crazy to feel like you're in it. But at the same time, I feel blessed to be able to be a part of it in some way and hopefully make it easier for parents to understand and, stand up for their children.
Well, and again, as from one Catholic to another, sometimes it's a challenge whether you're in the Catholic Church or any Protestant church that the church goes woke.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's, that's been the biggest realization for me as a Catholic, is trying to sit back and disconnect the faith from the man. Sometimes disagree with Pope Francis on a lot of his decisions, or who he brings to the Vatican, who he entertains, who he snubs, and especially when it comes to, say, his cracking down on the traditional Latin Mass and, these other decisions that he's made. However, we have a duty, just like we do in politics, to ensure that our faith lives on, and that, it becomes, more than just the man. There's so much more behind it. So it makes me faithful or happy to see so many young Catholics kind of picking up that sword and continuing on the faith in such a traditional way, and really promoting it in that way, because without new life coming in on the end, all the tradition dies out. And so, I've seen a resurgence in young Catholics, especially young Catholic women veiling at Mass, and men bringing their young children and, kind of taking up that threshold. And so it makes me hopeful that despite the wokeness at maybe like the higher levels, there's still that young family that is going to Mass every Sunday and is teaching their children how to live a traditional life, and, teaching their children about honor and responsibility.
Yes. And you'll catch that. Okay, so you alluded to your new newsletter, which is about faith and family. Actually, let me just ask you the dumb media question. Mary, what's your new newsletter about?
Well, we like to say that it's, a mother telling true stories about culture, politics, and motherhood, just trying to explain how all of those three things are connected, even though they seem so far apart from each other. And essentially what I do is I talk about, things that have gone on in our family life, and try and make them relatable to other people. For example, I talked about it earlier. My first newsletter that came out last Thursday, we discussed cell phones, which is obviously such a big thing in our society, and just the dangers behind them, and, why we decided to say no to our kids when it came to cell phones, and kind of what they have to give up on their end as children not having them, but what it saves them from, and other friends of ours, and, their decisions behind it, and all of those things. So next week, we should have another great newsletter coming out on Thursday, and you'll be able to find it every week at thegoodlife.dailycaller.com. And, I'm really excited about it. I think we had some really good momentum on the first week, and I think that it's going to be a success, and I think that it's going to be able to help a lot of parents who are a little bit lost. Like I said earlier, it's never been harder to raise children. It's also hard when you think you're the only one making these hard decisions, whether it's about technology, or, whether it's about dating, or how do you handle homework, or how do you handle fights, or parenting in general, all of these things. And then whenever you talk about the issues with why are you single as a woman? Should you be looking at marriage in your 20s, and what are the benefits behind that, and what's the point of a husband anyway? And these kinds of questions I hope to be able to answer for, young singles who are looking for a way out of this morally corrupt society.
Well, and as you said, Mary, to let them know they're not alone. We'll get you out on this one. A couple of your headlines from the Daily Caller. Hidden deep inside, pro-Harris polling shows she's losing an important voter demographic, and despite the manufactured hype, the Kamala train is derailing.
Yeah, so, if you look at the New York Times Siena poll, everyone, has been praising that one for Kamala's, bump in the polls, and look, this is an A+ rating poll. But, hidden behind the A+ rating is the fact that they admitted in 2020 that they oversampled Democrat voters by 5%. And they know that they have a Democrat oversampling problem, but there's really not anything that they're going to do about it. But at the end of the day, even with the Democrat oversampling, it's showing that Kamala Harris is losing white male voters, especially white male blue-collar worker voters, by a large margin. And I think the biggest takeaway from this is that in 2016, these voters were the reason why Trump won. And it's looking like in 2024 it could give him the biggest chance of taking back the White House. Kamala Harris does not speak to these type of voters. She probably bought on Tim Walz thinking that he would be able to do that. You can kind of see it in the propaganda when surrounding him. They have the camo hat out. Oh, look at him. He's a hunter. Coach Walz, they call him because he was the assistant coach of some JV football team. You know, they're really trying to make him be like the Democrats' version of a man's man. And you can trust me because, look, I'm just a regular, typical man. But the way he comes out on stage, the way he presents himself as effeminate, all of these things, they're just not going to hit with blue-collar voters. However, when you look at the Trump Vance ticket, it's completely opposite. You have Trump, who has traditionally been able to speak to these voters on his own very well and obviously galvanize that base, which makes up about 69% of the electoral voters in the United States. So whenever you're looking at Trump, you know, he's already hitting that target, and then he brings on J.D. Vance, who not only is able to speak to them, but it is one of them. He grew up in this blue-collar town. He raised himself up, graduated from Yale, and then now has come back to ensure that others like him who lived similar life, had to deal with family members that went through, you know, addiction, that went through hard times and, you know, had this very traumatic childhood, that, you know, he could help them raise themselves up. So I think that this is a good sign for Trump. And then also, whenever you see things like Chris Hayes, who tweeted out over the weekend, you know, negative things about the Electoral College, you have to say to yourself, I bet you the internal polling here is even worse. And, you know, Trump is doing pretty well on this front. So it's just about making sure that, you know, his policies stay in line with blue-collar workers, that he helps the middle class. You know, those kinds of talking points are going to be really important for Trump.
Mary Rook, we appreciate you from the Daily Caller. You have a great day, ma'am.
All right, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Kevin.
All right, Mary Rook joining us. Check her newsletter out. And, of course, American Squad are available on Daily Caller. Don't forget our friends at Beacon Plumbing. They say stop freaking, call Beacon today. He's a little gem. Tea Party Bob joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. Lots of music there. You know, Mary is right on target this morning. There's only 72 days to the most important election in U.S. history, and it's doubtful that there's enough time for voters to learn enough about how dangerous it would be if the Democrats win this race. The few large conservative media outlets we have are no match for the massive liberal media and social media companies doing all they can to scam us into voting for Kamala. You know, it's much like when Hitler took over Germany with his propaganda machine. We think that what happened in Germany can never be repeated in the U.S. But we forget that Germany was profoundly a Christian nation. So what happened that allowed satanic evil to creep in and destroy that country? We often get sucked along with the culture, especially living in America. Here things are pretty good, and there is a lack of suffering and a lack of evil around us that lulls us into a state of passivity and silence. But silence in the face of evil is itself evil. The question is, are Americans asking themselves, have I been silent, and where's the evil? Everyone seems to think that what is happening in our country will go away. But will it, or will it grow into something more sinister than we ever imagined? We are a Christian nation, yet we hear very little coming out of our pastors, priests, and rabbis on where they stand, which makes you wonder, why are they so silent? If we believe we are any different than the 30s church in Germany, we are fools. As what could be more chilling than the silence in the face of evil? It's difficult when we see how blessed we are to believe there is this thing called evil. When you look at our history, Americans have paid the price for freedom with their blood, sweat, and tears. Our government allows us to be free to say whatever we want without fear of oppression, although some would argue that point under the current administration. Why do so many of us take our freedoms for granted? The world we live in has become a broken, sick place in only 3.5 years. It's hard to imagine where we will be in 4 years if Kamala is elected. God sees how we believe by how we behave. It's not what you believe. It is how we live our lives and don't speak up about injustices. The Lord is letting everything go to hell at the speed of light to wake up his church, and it is truly a blessing that things are getting so bad that people are now asking themselves, should I speak up? If you're silent when everything is going downhill, God knows you're not trusting him. Many of our clergy are silent because they are afraid to lose members if they speak out. However, I believe if more of the clergy did speak out, they would find their congregations would grow, not diminish. We have to stop playing it safe and get involved by speaking out and doing what we can to change how our nation has been going in the wrong direction. It's time for all true Christians to stand up and be counted, because if we don't, we are going to hell in a handbasket. That's about all I have to say.
Boy, that's really positive today.
Yeah, I have to be a little bit positive in this world.
I was being facetious.
Yes, I know you were, but I wasn't.
Wow. You're fired up today.
I'm just so upset with the garbage that's going on in this world. It's nuts. And it gets more nutty every day.
I would agree. Nutty politicians.
Well, I don't have an awful lot of respect for many politicians anymore. Not with what they've let happen to this country. And they're the ones that are responsible for allowing this to happen.
How do you see this election playing out?
I think Kennedy is probably going to add 4 to 8 points. I think a lot of the people who were with him in the beginning, many of them will come back. They will see the benefits of having him as an ally to Trump. And I think he's right in saying that the Democrats have really changed dramatically and gone in the wrong direction. It could change the election, especially in the states where there are really battles going on. I think that Kennedy could help swing 5 or 6 of those states. But we'll have to see. I'm just hoping that he can, and I'm hoping that this new coalition will change what's been going on. But, boy, we need a boost one way or another.
That's what I hear about you. You need a boost.
I need a booster chair. I'm getting too short.
Well, as a short man, I can relate to that.
Kevin, great show again this morning. I want to thank you very much for my time, and thank you for being there for us every week, day in and day out.
Well, what else do I have to do?
I don't know. What do you have to do?
I try to pace myself, Tea Party Bob, as you know.
I know. It gets harder. The older you get, the harder it is to pace yourself.
Especially with the world that we're living in today.
Yeah, so true. So true.
Well, we appreciate you. You have a great day. Thank you for listening.
You too, my friend. Take care. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Our great friend Tea Party Bob joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We'd love to hear from you and what you have to say, and, of course, how you have to say it. We don't censor people here. We love unfiltered, unregulated opinion. Oh, you haven't hung up there, Tea Party Bob. Thank you. Lee Joe, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, Lee Joe.
Good morning, Kevin. Can I get an amen for Brother Bob there?
Amen.
Excellent call.
Tea Party Bob.
Amen for Tea Party Bob. I need to back up way earlier in the show. Hezbollah versus Israel, and this premise that the communist has that there are rational people in the Gaza Strip who want peace and don't want their children to die. We're dealing with a mindset over there that it is better to die a martyr under the hands of Israel in whatever method it takes than to, make peace or be rational or do anything like that. The value of life depends on whether or not you've given it to Allah, basically. And when the Biden administration or whoever it is assumes some sort of a rational posture out of those terrorists and that they can be negotiated with, it shows how ignorant they are. Diplomacy works, right? Diplomacy only works when you're dealing with rational people who have a value for life, and that's not what's happening over there.
But the Biden people,
Iran,
the Biden people don't care. All they care about is what's in it for them. All they care about is just getting elected.
Well, I mean, there's just no acknowledgement of reality as there is in most policies that come from Democrats. You know, the reality is these folks don't mind putting their children and their wives in front of missiles and bombs so that they can all die as martyrs.
And what's that saying, from the river to the sea? That's how they see it, bro.
Right. That you know, we want the genocide of the Jews, and that's what they're saying. And so when they get genocided themselves...
Right, and throw in the great Satan.
Exactly. And just looking at the October 7th attacks, you can see demonic possession is what happened there. You know, evil and Satan have taken over the Gaza Strip. It's not Islam. It is just some sort of...
Well, but the media censoring it as well. I mean, the crimes committed against the Jewish people, and the fact that we're not, you know, replaying that day in and day out, and we've censored that, is sickening.
And it goes back to the 9/11 attacks. We censor people jumping out of buildings. It's this media is 100% anti-American.
Well, and that's the challenge for us on 9/11, because, look, it's the day after the debate. How are we going to handle that? Traditionally, we just roll with remembering the fallen. And by the way, hold on, let me just take a smack at everybody locally. I don't see anybody else doing that.
Doing what?
Remembering the fallen on September 11th.
No, it's because it's not going to happen. It's not in the media's best interest. They've been promoting that, that there are rational people among the terrorists that can be negotiated with.
Well, I mean, look, Biden wanted to give Khalid Sheikh Mohammed the plea bargain.
Exactly. All of this. There's no value in human life in the terrorists, and no value in human life in the Democrat Party. They are allied in their work against freedom and American values.
If the Republican Party was smart locally, I would tie every Democrat, starting with the mayor, to Joe Biden and go, okay, do you believe in, we have, this great Anne Frank Memorial, we have the Wasmuth Center, we have all these things going on here. I'd like to know if all the local Idaho Democrats condemn the attacks on Israel. Or do they have do they have the same philosophy as Joe Biden? Everybody gives them a pass, but tie them to their party.
Well, and you see the tolerance for anti-Semitism is huge, just absolutely huge.
And unfortunately, it is growing.
Yep. Again, weird how we're just kind of mimicking, 1933 Germany. Weird. Let's just carry on. Never mind history.
I agree. Anyways. Lee Joe, thank you for the call. Captain Harry, you're next. Kevin Miller.
KIDO Talk Radio.
Appreciate the comments of Tea Party Bob and others as we continue to move along and, talking about the media and how we're going to see this all play out in Idaho and across the nation. Idaho will, of course, have to figure out what we're going to do with this ranked choice voting. Obviously, people are going to be, promoting this, and we'll be hearing the ads and seeing this. I don't really understand the benefit of it. I don't really understand the benefit of ranked choice voting. What is the benefit? That are we saying that political parties are bad? That's really, I guess, what we're saying. We're saying that people that have moved to Idaho, that have left-leaning California, that has really, done a number on the nation, done a number on what once was a great state. You're hearing the ads for Reagan. And I don't know about you, and that song Tears for Fears, everybody wants to rule the world. I didn't care for it at the time when it came out in the mid-'80s because it just seemed kind of a goofy song. But, that's the song for the new Reagan movie. And I hope millennials, I hope Gen Z people go to see Ronald Reagan. the movie, and our friend Dennis Quaid, who plays Ronald Reagan. And I was talking to a friend of mine who just took a job from Augusta, Georgia to Columbus, Ohio. You talk about a culture shock. A culture shock that you have going from Augusta, Georgia to Columbus, Ohio. And he was talking about him and his wife. And by the way, unlike your humble host, these folks achieved a lot in life. One went to Notre Dame, played college baseball there. Another went to St. Mary's College, the sister school of Notre Dame. And they went to college in the Midwest, both Southerners. And now they are in the state of Ohio. And it's funny because sometimes my buddy, I'll just say his name's Adam, we call him the boss man. Sometimes the boss man east of the Great River doesn't realize who he's talking to because he knows me by my name. I wasn't going to say my given name, but the name he gave me, Charlie. And he goes, you know, Charlie, me and my wife, we grew up with Reagan. And Reagan was like a surrogate father to all of us. And unbeknownst to the boss man, I've been saying that for years. And the boss man is a couple years younger than me, my friend Adam, who, just like me, is very passionate about what he does for a living, radio. And I'm thinking, bro, that's why I was always so critical on Clinton. That's why I was so critical on Obama. Because for 8 years, I was 12 when Reagan came into office. And when he left office, I was 20. And, you know, you think about that. And those 8 years, we knew nothing but the Gipper. And no matter what happened, the Gipper was always going to be there for us. The Gipper was always going to be, everything was going to be okay. And we had Iran-Contra, and we had Gorbachev, and we had everything else. And one of the most, and I highly recommend this, I think I actually might go to one of my varying social media accounts that has a whopping 3 people following it, and put on the last speech of Ronald Reagan. And I hope this movie is a sellout and it's great, but I sit there and I'm looking at it and how Reagan made us all feel, and the dementia may have been kicking in, but how he loved his wife. And they didn't have the best relationship with their kids. You have Michael Reagan, outstanding talk show host. You have Ronald Reagan Jr., who's a lib. One of my great regrets moving to Idaho was when I was slated to take on Reagan Jr., but Channel 7 couldn't make that happen on an edition of Hardball after Obama's speech. That's how highly MSNBC thought of me, that we would go toe-to-toe with Chris Matthews. And you have Patty Davis. And he didn't have a great relationship with his kids, but he loved his wife. He loved America. And he loved us. And at the end of it, he talked about that he and Nancy are going to go off into the sunset, and thanked everybody for being a part of the Reagan Revolution. Is anybody happy about being part of the Biden bumbling, the Kamala capers? And I always worried about the kids that were raised under Obama, the kids that were raised under Clinton, especially Clinton, because that was the end of morality in America. Captain Harry, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller.
Top of the morning, Kevin. Hopefully they don't shut me down 3 times since I've tried calling you. My phone just goes off.
Sorry, brother.
And they're after me. I'm on the list ever since the helicopter went by. And a little bit more to that story. Cowboy Calvin came out here and checked me out. And a couple days later, he had the helicopter buzz his house, and his phone started going wacko.
Hey, the lesson is nobody should be hanging out with you.
And he ain't the only one. I got about half a dozen buddies that don't want to call me no more. But I kind of want to touch it on the Harley Davidson deal. That I know a lot of bikers, and they're really the bikers are fired up big time. I'll tell you what, a lot of them guys aren't real good at voting, but they are this year. And thank you, Chameleon Harris, and you know, Ronald Reagan was one of the last great super charismatic. I can't say that word. Charismatic, whatever. Had a hell of a personality. And,
you mean charismatic?
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go. I barely made high school.
You and me both, brother. We're good.
I'm all fired up here this morning, this telephone deal. But anyway, Kevin, I just want to stand up for the Harley-Davidson boys. I've been riding since 73, and Indians are starting to look a lot better. And Harley's got to fire that dude and get rid of him. That's a tradition, American tradition, and they got to end it. So that's all I got. I'll be standing by.
Thank you very much. Liberal Steve joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, LS.
Good morning, Kevin Miller. Don't forget, Kamala will set us free and move us more and more towards freedom.
Towards socialism.
Freedom of everything.
Socialism.
It's funny how Kennedy said he wants to stop all fracking immediately if he became president.
Wow.
And that he is...
it ain't going to happen for him, buddy.
Not against, huh?
He ain't going to happen for him, buddy.
Yeah, right. So he joined the ticket, losing ticket.
He joined the right team.
I will tell you right now, anything you want to say, anything you want to do between now and the day we vote in November isn't going to change a thing, because statistically, we are climbing the ladder so fast there's no way Trump can catch up.
It's almost like that Jefferson's theme, moving on up.
Yeah,
moving on up.
That's the Jefferson theme.
Can you sing that a little for us? Can you sing that for us?
I tell you what, man.
Can you sing that for us?
Man. Because I'm a hippie woo. And I tell you what, it's so cool to see the women here in Tucson coming out in droves, heading for the Democratic election, and you're just going to turn things upside down in this world. And Arizona is now blue, and I'm telling you what, before November comes, Idaho will be so blue you won't even be able to play football anywhere. It's great. It's over. Trump is gone.
Hey, Pro-Life, you're on KIDO Talk Radio. What do you make of this guy?
Well, it's pretty stupid,
Hey, Pro-Life, can I ask you a question?
No.
Why not?
No.
Don't ask me a question.
Do you think vasectomy should be outlawed?
Vasectomies?
Yes.
Yeah, unless it's for a medical reason.
So why do you want it outlawed?
What is this? Ask the pro. Pros called in.
No, don't interrupt. I'm asking.
What do you mean don't interrupt? You don't interrupt.
I'm asking your caller. Why do you think it should be outlawed?
Well, because if you don't have a growing population, if you're not going to get married and have children and families, you have a dying civilization. So you're for dying civilization.
And by the way, Terry says a very feminine opinion. You have a very feminine opinion.
Well, Terry should be, according to Right to Life, Terry should be arrested when he was a kid or a man. Every time he masturbates, he destroys another human being. So he should be arrested.
We won't. We dumped him. We're good.
Yeah, well, that's pretty crazy.
He was talking about dancing with himself. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
how do you come back? How do you come back from that one?
Well, pretty easy. I mean, he's just a total idiot. Anyway, Mr. Vance, running for vice president, he said that the president is, if a bill came up, legislation that would ban abortions in the United States, that he would veto it. President Trump would veto a bill banning abortions. Now, I've heard President Trump say that.
Right, a national ban on abortions, yeah.
Right. Okay. And then, of course, Mr. Kennedy's for murdering babies, and Mr. Trump's for murdering babies. Now, here's what people don't realize this, but almost every state now is going to have a initiative referendum, whatever you call them, an initiative law or initiative change of their constitution to allow abortion.
Just like the gay marriage.
Yeah. Now, if our side that knows that abortion is murder, if we're going to run for office on the rational thought that we're going to win by not emphasizing that abortion is murder, then